Cowboy rescues woman from jet crash, unaware she's the millionaire CEO who'll steal his heart. Hello, viewer. Thanks for joining us. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. Travis Ward woke before dawn, as he did every day, to the soft hum of the wind through the ranch's barren fields. At 43, the creases around his eyes told stories of hot summers and uncertain harvests. He breathed in the crisp air, letting it settle his thoughts. The old barn loomed ahead, paint peeling off its walls like memories he'd tried to forget. He stepped inside, calling gently, "Easy, girl," to Cheyenne, his favorite mare. Light from a single bulb revealed dust motes dancing in the air. He moved with quiet efficiency, forking hay into troughs and checking each horse. Their snorts and hoof stomps echoed in the stillness, alone. That was how Travis liked it. At least, that was how he'd gotten used to living. By 6 o'clock, sunlight stretched across the horizon, turning the fields a pale gold. Travis headed back to the house, his weathered cowboy hat tilting low. Inside, the kitchen was silent. A single coffee mug sat on the counter, chipped at the rim, a reminder of simpler times. He poured himself a dark brew and stared out the window at the dusty road that led nowhere fast. His best friend Dylan had once joked that if Travis didn't change his ways, he'd be out here alone until he was old and gray. But Travis had a knack for burying the ache behind a stoic grin. Loving someone meant risking everything. He'd lost that gamble once before, and it almost broke him. He sipped his coffee, letting the bitter warmth steady his pulse. Off in the distance, thunderheads gathered. The local radio crackled with a storm warning. "Great," he muttered, grabbing a denim jacket. Rain was always a gamble, sometimes salvation, sometimes pure destruction. He pulled on his boots, determined to check the fence lines before the weather turned. As he stepped outside, the wind picked up, rattling the edges of the barn. A storm was definitely brewing. He climbed into his pickup truck, the old engine coughing before roaring to life. The roads were rough, worn by years of half-finished repairs. Tumbleweeds scurried across the asphalt like restless spirits. Travis eyed the darkening sky. Something about the day felt off, as if the land itself braced for impact. Meanwhile, across the country in a sleek Manhattan office, Madeline Callahan gripped her phone so tight her knuckles turned white. She had just turned 40, and though her board of directors praised her for her vision, she felt the sting of each passing year. Competitors whispered about her behind closed doors, too driven, too cold. She slammed the phone into its cradle. Her CFO had bungled a crucial merger. Now she had to fly out immediately to negotiate face-to-face with an eccentric investor in Dallas. Her assistant, Carla, hovered anxiously. "Ms. Callahan, everything's set. The jet is fueled at Teterboro. The pilot says we can beat the storm if we leave in the next hour." Madeline clenched her jaw, mentally rearranging her schedule. "Fine. Tell them I'll be there in 30 minutes. She smoothed her tailored blazer and marched out, determination blazing in her dark eyes. She hated last-minute emergencies, but leadership meant controlling every crisis. A swift elevator ride down the glass tower led to a waiting car. Rain droplets began to pelt the windshield as the driver navigated Manhattan's congested streets. She stared out at the chaos, an odd pit of worry forming in her stomach. Storms always made her uneasy, stirring up memories she preferred locked away. Arriving at Teterboro, she stepped onto the private jet, nodding curtly at the flight crew. The pilot approached, tipping his cap. "Ms. Callahan, we have a rough weather pattern forming en route, especially over central Texas. We'll do our best to circumvent it," she offered a tight-lipped smile. "Just get us there safely." "I'm meeting an investor first thing in the morning." Settling into her seat, she flipped through documents, refusing to dwell on the swirling clouds outside. The engines roared, and within minutes, the jet ascended into grey skies. Madeline forced her focus on the upcoming negotiations, ignoring the turbulence that jostled her every few minutes. Back in Texas, Travis drove along a rutted back road. Sheets of rain hammered his windshield. "Damn," he muttered, struggling to see. Lightning cut across the sky, illuminating endless farmland. The radio buzzed with severe weather alerts, warning of dangerous gusts. Travis cursed under his breath, thinking of the livestock. He had miles to go before checking every part of his land. Out of nowhere, something roared overhead. He glanced up, heart pounding. A jet, flying way too low, thundered across the stormy sky. Travis clenched the steering wheel. That can't be right, he thought. No flight path usually crossed this remote area. Another flash of lightning revealed the plane's silhouette rocking dangerously side to side. He watched, horror mounting, as the aircraft vanished behind a line of trees. Seconds later, the ground seemed to shudder from a distant impact. His breath caught, adrenaline flooding his veins. That was no rough landing. Somebody just crashed. Without hesitation, he jerked the wheel, turning onto a muddy track that led toward the flickering glow in the distance. Headlights barely cut through the deluge. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to hurry. He had no idea who was in that plane. But if they were alive, they wouldn't be for long in this storm. He pressed the gas pedal to the floor, the truck fishtailing in the mud. "Hold on," he whispered, though no one else could hear. The storm raged, lightning spearing the sky like nature's wild warning. In that instant, Travis felt a shift in the air, as if fate itself had taken the reins. Something big was about to happen, and it was barreling straight at him. Thunder rumbled across the low hills as Travis parked his pickup at the edge of a wide clearing. His heart pounded, breath puffing in cold, rain-soaked air. The smell of burning metal and scorched earth hit him immediately. Ahead lay the twisted remains of a small private jet. Tail sections snapped clean off. Flickers of flame lit jagged pieces of fuselage scattered across the soaked ground. Travis jumped out, the wind whipping his jacket. "Hello?" he shouted, voice nearly drowned out by the storm. Rain stung his face as he sprinted toward the wreckage. He noticed the cockpit crushed against a half-toppled tree. Panic clawed at him. This was worse than anything he'd imagined. Lightning flashed, revealing a figure huddled near a gaping tear in the plane's side. Travis approached cautiously. "Hey, you okay?" he called, swallowing hard when he saw the blood. The flight attendant clutched her arm and blinked through the downpour. "Help! The others!" she rasped, eyes wide with shock. Travis scanned the interior. Smoke and jagged debris made it impossible to see. "I'll come back for you," he promised, wrapping the woman in a blanket from his truck. He led her away from the main flames, propping her against a tree. "Stay here, I'm going in." Turning back to the wreck, he climbed through twisted metal, ignoring the searing heat that singed his arms. Sparks flew from dangling wires. The stench of fuel grew stronger. "Anyone here?" he shouted, voice echoing in the broken cabin. His eyes swept across torn leather seats. Two figures lay motionless, no pulse. He exhaled shakily, grief stabbing him, but pressed on. A faint cough drew him deeper. Near the rear of the cabin, pinned by a collapsed storage bin, was a woman, clothes torn, hair matted with blood. She coughed again, trembling. "Please, get me out." Her voice was faint but urgent. "Ma'am, I got you," Travis whispered, forcing calm. Rainwater dripped through the ruptured ceiling, mixing with the acrid smell of smoke. He knelt, adrenaline hammering. She was pale, dark hair streaked with soot, likely mid-30s or early 40s. He lifted the broken metal trapping her legs. She winced in pain, eyes fluttering. "Stay with me," he urged. "What's your name?" She blinked, struggling to form words. "Madeline. Callahan." Travis's gut twisted. He recognized that name from business headlines. But now wasn't the time for questions. "All right, Ms. Callahan, I'm Travis. Let's get you out of this mess." He wedged his shoulder under the damaged panel, lifting with all his might. Madeline moaned as blood trickled from a gash on her forehead. "Hurts," she murmured. "I know," he replied, voice tight. "Just a little more." The metal groaned, shifting enough for her to free her legs. Without hesitation, he scooped her into his arms. She was tall, but he carried her as if she weighed nothing. Her eyes fluttered shut, shock overtaking her. Outside, the wind howled, flinging rain sideways. Travis carefully navigated the wreckage. The attendant saw them emerge and sobbed with relief. "She's alive!" Travis shouted, crouching to lower Madeline onto a patch of grass. Flames crackled behind them, growing louder. He turned to the attendant. "We have to move away from here before the fire spreads or the fuel ignites." The attendant nodded, tears mixing with rain. Together, they half-carried Madeline toward Travis's truck. Every step was a battle against mud and howling wind. When they finally reached the vehicle, Travis gently settled Madeline in the passenger seat. Her eyes opened briefly, panic flickering. "Don't worry," he said, swallowing the lump in his throat. "You're safe now." He helped the attendant climb into the back seat, then slammed the door. "Hospital's an hour away, but we'll do what we can," he muttered, fumbling with the ignition. The engine roared, headlights cutting through sheets of rain. In the rearview mirror, he saw the plane's carcass flicker with an ominous glow. He pressed the accelerator, praying the truck wouldn't get stuck in the mud. Madeline let out a soft groan. Travis glanced at her. Even bruised and bloodied, she carried a quiet dignity. He realized with a jolt that she was indeed Madeline Callahan, the millionaire CEO he'd seen on television interviews and magazine covers. A heavy sense of responsibility settled on his shoulders. "Hang on," he muttered, racing over potholes and uneven terrain. The wounded flight attendant hissed in pain, and Madeline's breath came in shallow spurts. "Talk to me," Travis urged, wanting to keep her conscious. "What's the last thing you remember?" She opened her lips, voice cracking. "We hit turbulence. The pilot lost control, felt the plane drop." She squeezed her eyes shut as if replaying the horror. "It's over now," he said, though the words felt hollow. Lightning lit the fields around them in harsh bursts. The nearest hospital was far, but there was a small clinic in the next town. It would have to do. They lurched onto the main road. Travis swallowed hard as he dialed 911 on his phone, praying for reception. The call dropped twice before he finally got through. He barked details to the dispatcher, emphasizing the severity of Madeline's injuries. They promised an ambulance would meet him halfway. Lightning flashed again, revealing Madeline's dark eyes open, full of questions. "Thank you," she whispered, voice trembling. "You saved me." Travis turned the wheel, heart thudding. Would have done the same for anyone. But something told him this was more than a simple rescue. The moment he pulled her from those flames, a spark ignited, one that would change everything he thought he knew about himself, about life. He exhaled as the storm raged on, feeling an odd mix of fear and determination. Fate had steered them into each other's path. Now, neither could turn back. The faint hum of fluorescent lights and the antiseptic smell of disinfectant replaced the roar of the storm. Travis stood in the cramped waiting area of a small-town clinic, arms crossed, hat in hand. Rainwater dripped from his jacket onto the tiled floor. Nurses and orderlies rushed past, guiding stretchers and IV stands. They'd arrived barely 20 minutes ago. An ambulance had met them, transferring Madeline and the flight attendant, whose name he'd learned was Harper. Both women were in critical condition, but at least the clinic staff had sprung into action. Travis had done his part. Now all he could do was wait. An older nurse approached. "Sir, you're the one who brought in Miss Callahan, correct?" Travis nodded, heart pounding. "How is she?" She's stable for now. We're doing scans to check for internal injuries. That head wound concerns us. You're free to see her once we finish." Her voice was kind, but her eyes were tired. "In the meantime, can you fill out some paperwork? We need details for her records." Travis frowned. "I don't know much about her. I found her in the wreck." It felt odd to refer to the plane crash so bluntly. The nurse offered a sympathetic smile. "Do your best." He settled at a makeshift desk, scribbling what little he knew. Madeleine Callahan, CEO, plane crash victim, next of kin. He had no clue. He glanced at the phone in his pocket. He'd tried calling the number listed for her company, but it went to voicemail. He felt out of place, an unshaven rancher amidst fluorescent sterility, but his gut told him not to leave until he knew she was going to pull through. Hours seemed to pass. Outside, the storm finally eased, replaced by a steady drizzle. Travis paced the corridor. Harper, the flight attendant, was sedated in a separate room, her arm in a cast. Around midnight, a doctor emerged, exhaustion etched on her features. "You're here for Miss Callahan?" she asked. Travis straightened. "We've stabilized her. No major spinal injuries. Thank God. She does have a concussion, several fractures and a deep laceration on her forehead. We're monitoring for complications, but she's alert enough to speak. Keep it short." Travis exhaled, relief washing over him. "Thank you, Doctor." He followed her down the hallway to a small room. Machines beeped softly. Madeleine lay in a hospital bed, head wrapped in gauze, an IV in her arm. She looked smaller, somehow, stripped of her polished exterior. Her eyes flickered open, taking a moment to focus on him. "You're that cowboy," she managed, voice hoarse. He stepped closer, pulling off his hat. "Travis Ward," he said gently. "How are you feeling?" A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Like I survived a plane crash." She winced, touching her bandaged forehead. You pulled me out. I remember the storm, then the wreck. Did everyone—" He shook his head. "Most didn't make it, I'm sorry." He swallowed, recalling the scene. "But Harper did. She's here too, recovering." Madeleine's eyes filled with tears. I owe you my life." Travis waved a hand, his voice low. "Just glad I got there in time." They lapsed into silence, the only sound the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor. After a long moment, Madeleine's gaze hardened, as if some internal switch flipped. "I need to call my office," she said. "They'll be worried." He nodded. "Sure, let me see if I can get you a phone." Before he could move, she caught his sleeve. "Travis, thank you." Her voice cracked, sincerity shimmering in her dark eyes. "I don't say that often." He patted her hand awkwardly. "Yeah, well, you rest. Don't worry about anything else for now." Stepping out, he found a nurse and arranged a phone for Madeleine. A deep sense of protectiveness welled in him. The woman in that bed was a stranger in many ways, yet he couldn't shake the connection that sparked the instant he carried her out of the flames. He tried to rationalize it, adrenaline, guilt, pity. But it felt bigger than that, an inexplicable pull. Not long after, Harper woke, disoriented but stable. Travis offered a comforting word through the door, but she barely recognized him. The medics told him she'd be transferred to a better-equipped facility once the roads cleared. Another doctor suggested the same for Madeleine, but she needed to be cleared for transport first. At dawn, Travis found himself still in the waiting room, blinking away exhaustion. This wasn't his burden, he thought. She had corporate jets, money, staff. Any second, an army of lawyers or executives would show up. But nobody had. He frowned at the silent hall, listening to the drip of the coffee machine in the corner. It was too strange that a woman of her stature had 0 people rushing in. He was jolted from his thoughts by footsteps. Madeleine stood in the hallway, leaning heavily on a crutch, an IV pole trailing behind. Despite the hospital gown and bruises, she had an air of quiet command. "Should you be walking?" Travis asked, stepping forward. Her jaw tightened. "I can't just lie in there. I need to get to Dallas. I'm in the middle of a crucial business deal. My team isn't picking up. I left voicemails, but the lines might be down because of the storm." Travis sighed. "You nearly died last night. Maybe let your body catch up." A spark of steel lit her eyes. "I'm not the type who rests easy." He studied her. Yeah, I gathered." They stared at each other, tension thick as the disinfected air. Finally, she let out a shaky breath, lowering her gaze. "Thank you for staying. I didn't think you would. People usually leave." Travis remembered the countless times he'd felt alone. He chewed the inside of his cheek, then nodded. "I'm not most people." A beat passed. "Look, if you need help getting to Dallas once the road's clear, I'll drive you, but at least wait for the doc to give the okay." She lifted her chin. "Deal, but I'm covering costs. Gas, hotel, whatever you need." He gave a tight shrug, ignoring the odd swirl in his chest. "We'll figure it out later." Silence lingered. For a moment, they were just two battered souls in a dim hallway, bound by a single act of fate. Then a nurse bustled over, scolding Madeline for being out of bed. The moment shattered. As they guided Madeline back to her room, Travis ran a hand through his hair. He couldn't place it exactly, but something about this woman stirred emotions he'd long buried. He had no idea how complicated her world might be, or how their lives would tangle in the coming days. All he knew was that the crash had changed them both, and neither could ignore the gravity of that night. Travis stepped outside the clinic for a breath of fresh air. The day was overcast, the air heavy with moisture. Puddles lined the parking lot, reflecting the gray sky. He squinted at his pickup, now caked with mud. The memory of racing to the crash site still made his stomach lurch. He dialed Dylan, his closest friend, to let him know he'd be gone a while longer. "She's a big-shot CEO, Dylan," Travis muttered into the phone. "The plane wrecked right on the outskirts of the ranch. She's banged up but stable." Dylan let out a low whistle. "You always find trouble, Trav. Need help on the ranch?" Travis exhaled. "Could you feed the horses for me? I'll pay you back." "No worries, man. You just handle whatever it is you're handling." They said their goodbyes, and Travis slipped the phone back into his pocket. Inside, Madeline was dealing with her own round of phone calls. A local landline had been set up for her, but her eyes flashed with frustration each time she got disconnected. Something was obviously pressing back in Dallas. When Travis returned to the waiting room, he found her hunched over the telephone, knuckles white. She slammed down the receiver. "Why won't anyone pick up?" she seethed, then froze, noticing him. "Sorry," she said, voice softer. "Bad day." He managed a half smile. "Bad couple of days, I'd say." "You get through to your office?" She shook her head, her dark hair, still matted, swaying slightly. "No. My CFO's line is dead. My assistant's on voicemail. It's like the entire staff disappeared." Travis frowned. "Could be the storm knocked out some towers, or maybe they're busy responding to the crash news." She inhaled sharply. "Right, the crash." Her fingers trembled against her hospital gown. My company is my responsibility. I hate feeling powerless." His gaze softened. He knew that feeling well. Powerless, alone, undone by circumstances beyond control. "You're not powerless," he said gently, "but you're hurt. Let yourself heal." A flicker of gratitude passed over her features. "You sound like my mother," she said with a wry smile, then hesitated. "Except more polite." Travis chuckled. "Look, once the doc clears you, I'll drive you. Dallas is a couple hours away. You can check on your company in person." Her shoulders sagged in relief. "Thank you. I'll make arrangements to pay for everything. And for the record, if you ever need anything..." He raised a hand to stop her. "I didn't rescue you for a paycheck. Let's just get you safe." She studied him, curiosity in her eyes. Before she could respond, a nurse approached. "Miss Callahan, your scans look good. The doctor wants you to stay another night for observation. After that, you'll likely be discharged with a prescription for pain management and instructions to rest." Madeline nodded, though her jaw tensed. Travis watched her weigh her options. She turned to him. "I guess we're stuck another day. Hope you can spare the time." "Ranch will survive," he said simply, though inside he worried about the finances and chores piling up. Something about Madeline's predicament cut through his usual caution. Maybe it was the stark vulnerability in her eyes, or the memory of how she'd clung to him in the storm. That evening, the clinic quieted. Nurses made their rounds with hushed efficiency. Harper had been taken to a larger hospital in the city for surgery on her arm. Travis sat in a corner of Madeline's room, arms folded across his chest. She drifted in and out of sleep, lulled by medication. At one point, she woke with a start, eyes wide with fear. "Travis," she whispered. He was at her bedside instantly. "I'm here, it's okay." She blinked away tears. "I was dreaming about the crash. God, it felt so real." Her breathing was ragged. "The pilot, he was yelling. I couldn't breathe." Travis placed a reassuring hand on the railing. "It's over. You're safe." He tried to keep his voice steady. "It's normal to have nightmares after something like that." She swallowed hard. "I'm not used to feeling this helpless." Travis gazed at her, feeling an unexpected surge of empathy. "Look, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to." Her eyes flickered with anguish, then steadied on him. "I always feel like I have to keep it together, you know? Like if I show any weakness, people won't respect me. Sometimes I wonder if I've built my whole life around being untouchable." He nodded slowly. "I get it. I used to think the only way to stay strong was to close yourself off, but it can get lonely." A memory of his past heartbreak flickered, though he pushed it aside. She searched his face. "Loneliness is a price I've paid for success. I just never thought it would matter." Silence stretched between them. The clinical beep of machines underscored every unspoken thought. He finally sighed, shifting his weight. "You've been through a major trauma, physically and—" He gestured vaguely. "Maybe this is a wake-up call." Madeline gave a rueful smile. "You sound like my personal therapist," she teased, then winced in pain. "Sorry, sarcasm's my coping mechanism." He offered a gentle grin. "No offense taken." They settled into a more comfortable quiet. Outside, the storm clouds had cleared, revealing a sliver of moonlight through the window. Travis realized they had just plunged into each other's darkest fears, something he rarely did with anyone, yet it felt strangely right. Eventually, a nurse insisted Travis step away while they checked Madeline's vitals. He strolled the halls, letting the fluorescent lights and the hum of distant conversations soothe his nerves. A swirl of questions filled his mind. What would happen once she got back to her high-powered world? Where would he fit in that picture? The crash had thrown them together, but real life would pull them apart just as quickly unless something stronger held them close. For the first time in years, Travis felt a stirring he couldn't easily bury. He recalled how her hand had clutched his shirt, how her eyes looked into his as if he were the only thing anchoring her. That moment, though dire, had sparked a bond he couldn't deny. But he pushed the thought aside. Emotions had a way of complicating things, and he wasn't sure either of them was ready to deal with more complications. Morning light spilled through the windows, illuminating dust motes drifting in the clinic corridor. Travis finished a phone call with the local sheriff, confirming they'd found the black box from the crash site. Investigations would take time, but for now, no foul play was suspected, just mechanical failure compounded by the storm. He tucked his phone away, noticing Madeline's door ajar. Inside, she stood shakily, dressed in clothes a nurse had brought, a pair of scrubs that looked comically large, but at least they weren't a hospital gown. She lifted her chin when he entered, determination etched in her features. "Doc says I can go today," she announced, crossing her arms. "So, about that ride to Dallas?" Travis nodded. "We'll take my truck, but you should see if the clinic can arrange an ambulance to—" "No, I can manage." She took a tentative step, grimacing as her ribs protested. "I'll pay you for your trouble." He waved off the offer again. "Let's just get you where you need to be." He glanced at the doctor lurking in the hallway, who gave a resigned shrug. They both knew Madeline wouldn't listen to reason about resting. After signing discharge papers, Travis gently guided her through the clinic's automatic doors. Outside, the late morning sun felt warm on their faces. Madeline hesitated, shielding her eyes. "I almost forgot what fresh air smells like," she said softly. Her gaze slid to Travis's mud-splattered pickup. "That's our chariot," he smirked. "Don't knock her. She's sturdy." Helping her into the passenger seat, he tried to ignore the tension that coursed through him at the brush of her arm. Once she was settled, he circled around and climbed into the driver's seat. The road stretched out before them, battered by the previous day's storm. Potholes and broken branches forced Travis to drive slowly at first. Madeline stared out the window, silent, lost in thought. Eventually, she spoke. "I've been trying to contact my CFO for almost 2 days now. He should have called me back the minute he heard about the crash. Something's off." Travis cast a sidelong glance. "Could be infrastructure issues, or maybe they didn't get your messages yet." She exhaled, a mix of anxiety and anger tightening her jaw. "I run a multi-million-dollar corporation. My staff is supposed to be on high alert for any crisis, especially if their CEO goes down in a plane crash." Her fingers drummed on the armrest. "Unless they don't want me back." He kept his eyes on the road, stunned by the vulnerability in her statement. "You think they'd use your accident to push you out?" She snorted softly. "Boardroom politics can be vicious. If the CFO sees an opportunity to dethrone me, he might act quickly to secure his power. I'm not paranoid, just realistic." Travis pursed his lips. The complexities of corporate life were foreign to him, but he knew betrayal when he saw it. "I'm sorry you have to deal with that. If it's true, they're a bunch of vultures." Her expression was grim. "I won't give up my position without a fight." The miles rolled by, farmland gradually giving way to small towns and highways. Madeline kept fidgeting with her phone, checking signal strength. Finally, it rang. She put it on speaker, tension etched across her face. "Madeline, is that you?" came a frantic voice. It was Carla, her assistant. "Oh my God, where have you been? We heard rumors of a plane crash but couldn't confirm." "Everything's chaos here." Madeline closed her eyes in relief. "Carla, calm down. I'm alive, obviously. What's going on at the office?" Carla's words spilled out in a rush. "The CFO, Robert, said you were unreachable. The board convened an emergency meeting to discuss interim leadership. The press is spinning stories about your condition. Some are implying you won't be back to work for months, if at all." Madeline's knuckles whitened on the phone. "I'm en route to Dallas now. Get me a full report on everything that's happened since my disappearance. I want Robert's exact statements, the board's minutes, everything." "Yes, Ms. Callahan," Carla replied, the relief in her voice palpable. "We'll be ready. I'm so glad you're okay." Madeline ended the call and stared at the phone with a mixture of anger and defiance. Travis cleared his throat. "So it's worse than you thought." She sank back against the seat. "Yes, but I'll handle it. I always do." He glanced at her bandaged head and bruised face. "Just remember you're still healing." Her gaze softened slightly. "I won't push myself too far." They continued in silence until the horizon revealed the Dallas skyline. Skyscrapers rose against the now clear sky, a stark contrast to the open plains. Travis felt a hint of unease. This was her world: steel and glass towers, high-stakes deals, endless ambition. And he was just a rancher who'd stumbled into her life. He exited the freeway as Madeline directed him toward her building. She grimaced in pain whenever the truck hit a bump, but her resolve never wavered. Pulling up to the curb, they were greeted by a trio of startled doormen who rushed to assist. Madeline brushed them off politely, determined to step out on her own. She turned to Travis, standing on the sidewalk amidst the buzz of city traffic. "Thank you for everything. You saved my life and got me here." A flicker of emotion lit her eyes. "I'll be in touch, Travis. Please, don't vanish on me." He dipped his head, not sure how to respond. "Take care of yourself, Madeline. Let me know if you need anything else." With that, she was swept into the polished lobby by concerned staff. Travis watched her go, an odd emptiness tugging at his chest. He climbed back into his truck, the city's rush closing in. For a moment, he considered heading straight home, but some instinct told him to stay close. He found himself driving to a nearby diner instead, mind churning over the past 48 hours. Inside the bustling eatery, he sipped burnt coffee, ignoring the glances at his mud-splattered boots. He imagined Madeline, battered but unbroken, stepping into a boardroom war. A part of him wanted to barge in, stand at her side, and remind everyone that she wasn't alone. But that wasn't his place. She was tough, more than capable, yet the thought of just driving away felt wrong. He shook his head, telling himself he'd give it a day, see if she reached out. If she didn't, he'd go back to ranch life, grateful to have done his part. But deep down, a seed of longing had taken root, and he had a feeling it wouldn't be uprooted easily. Travis stood outside the busy downtown diner, the city noise pulsing in his ears. He could still taste the bitter coffee on his tongue. A day had passed since he'd dropped Madeline at her office tower, and he'd stayed in Dallas longer than planned, lodging in a cheap motel on the outskirts. Something in his gut told him not to leave just yet, so he waited, leaning against his truck, boots scuffing the curb as people rushed by with barely a glance. His phone vibrated. He fished it out, half expecting Dylan checking in about the ranch. Instead, it was a number he didn't recognize. Hesitating only a second, he answered. "Travis," came Madeline's unmistakable voice, though tension laced her tone. I hope this isn't a bad time. Can you meet me at my office? I might need your help with something." He exhaled, relief washing over him. "Sure, everything okay?" She paused. "I'm not sure. There's a board meeting in an hour, and I'd feel better if you were nearby, please." He couldn't hide a small smile. "I'm on my way." Minutes later, he found himself in a marble-floored lobby, feeling as out of place as a stray horse in a penthouse. The receptionist, wide-eyed at his rugged appearance, directed him to the executive floor. When the elevator doors opened, he spotted Madeline waiting by a sleek conference room. She wore a tailored dress, an elegant attempt to mask her injuries. A discreet bandage peeked out from beneath her hairstyle. Despite her fragile state, she projected unshakable confidence, yet he saw the flicker of relief in her eyes as he approached. "You came," she said softly, tilting her head in gratitude. He cleared his throat. "Didn't want you to face these corporate vultures alone." She almost smiled. "Well, you'll fit right in, considering I'm the only one used to controlling them." Her voice tried for levity, but the tension remained. Before Travis could respond, the glass doors swung open. A tall, sharp-suited man stepped out, Robert, the CFO. His eyes flicked over Travis with barely concealed disdain. "Ms. Callahan, the board is convening. Are you certain you're up for this?" Madeline's jaw tightened. "I'm fine." She gestured to Travis. "He's my guest. Let's proceed." Robert's lips thinned, but he nodded curtly and stepped back inside, letting Madeline and Travis follow. The conference room bustled with murmuring directors. Travis felt their gazes fix on him, some curious, some disapproving. Madeline took her seat at the head of the table, shoulders squared. Travis stood behind her, arms crossed, ignoring the tension thick enough to choke on. Robert cleared his throat. As some of you know, Ms. Callahan was involved in a tragic accident. We convened this meeting to discuss temporary leadership in her absence. However, she's decided to return early. His tone held more than a hint of challenge. A murmur rippled through the board members, none of them daring to speak first. Then Madeline lifted her chin. I'm aware of your concerns. I'm recovering. But I'm fully capable of making decisions. My assistant is compiling a thorough report on all ongoing projects. If any of you doubt my capacity to lead, please speak now. Silence. Robert's knuckles whitened on the polished table. We only acted out of caution, Madeline, but it's good to see you're in one piece. That's Ms. Callahan, she corrected, her voice cutting, and I appreciate the concern, but I have no intention of relinquishing control. Travis watched the interplay, impressed by her poise. She was hurt, but no one would dare cross her without consequence. Still, he sensed an undercurrent of hostility behind Robert's forced smile. This was far from over. After a tense half-hour of financial updates and new business proposals, Madeline adjourned the meeting. Directors filed out, a few offering stiff well-wishes. Robert lingered, eyes flicking between them. Miss Callahan, let's talk privately. Madeline's spine went rigid. Not now. I'll schedule time tomorrow. Without waiting for his response, she turned to Travis, touching his arm lightly. Walk with me, she said, leading him down a corridor lined with modern art. She opened a door to a smaller conference room and motioned for him to step inside. She closed the door, exhaling hard. That was exhausting. She rested a hand over the bandage at her side, wincing. Travis's brow furrowed. You should be resting. This is too soon. She managed a half smile. I know, but I have to show them I'm still in control. She paused, glancing at him. Robert's been with the company for years. He's ambitious, and while that's useful, I can't shake the feeling he's maneuvering behind my back. If that's true, we could lose major investors or even face a hostile takeover. Travis shrugged, a thoughtful look crossing his face. I don't know much about boardrooms, but I've seen men like him, the type who circles when they smell blood. She nodded, the weight of her situation pressing down on her. I need allies, real ones. Right now, I only trust Carla and, well, you... A silence fell, thick with implications. She was opening up to him in a way that felt startlingly intimate. Then a knock at the door broke the moment. Carla poked her head in, relief sweeping her face. Ms. Callahan, sorry to interrupt. There's someone downstairs asking for you, a detective from the FAA. They have questions about the crash. Madeline sighed. Great, more complications. Travis caught her concerned gaze. Want me to come along? She nodded, grateful. Yes, please. Carla left, and Madeline took a shaky breath. You've already saved my life once. I hate asking for more. But until I figure out who's on my side, I'd feel safer if you stuck around. He softened. Hey, I'm not going anywhere until you're back on your feet for real. She rested her gaze on him, emotions flickering behind her eyes. I appreciate that more than you know. Let's handle the detective, and then maybe we can talk, really talk. Travis merely nodded, heart thudding at the possibility. It wasn't just about the crash anymore. Their lives were tangling in ways neither had predicted. He opened the door, stepping aside so she could pass. As she walked by, he caught a subtle whiff of her perfume, mixed with the faint scent of antiseptic. A reminder that she was still healing, and so was he, in ways not yet fully realized. They rode the elevator down in tense silence, the mechanical hum echoing in the enclosed space. Madeline stood near the door, shoulders set, gaze distant. Travis watched the floor numbers tick by, his own mind whirling. He wasn't sure if he belonged in this glossy corporate realm, but he also knew leaving her now felt wrong. At the lobby, a man in a rumpled suit waited, rubbing his neck as if exhausted from too many late nights. He offered a polite nod when they approached. "Ms. Callahan, Detective Willis, FAA Investigation Division." Madeline extended a hand, her voice carefully composed. "Yes, my associate, Travis Ward," she added, gesturing briefly. "You needed to speak about the crash." Willis flipped open a small notebook. "Thank you for meeting me. We'd like your statement regarding the flight. Any recollections of mechanical issues or pilot communications? The black box data suggests a system malfunction, but we're ruling out sabotage or negligence." He paused, scanning her bandages. "I understand this might be difficult." Madeline pressed her lips together. "I'll do my best." The pilot mentioned severe turbulence, then everything lurched, alarms, a sharp descent. That's all I recall before we hit the ground. She glanced at Travis, who gave a subtle nod of encouragement. Willis wrote swiftly, then closed his notebook. "I may need further details once you've had more time to recover. In the meantime, rest assured this is standard procedure. We'll keep you updated." He turned to Travis. "You discovered the wreck. Anything unusual at the site?" Travis shook his head. "Just the storm. I heard the crash and went to help." Willis nodded. "All right. If you recall anything else, please reach out." With that, he handed them both business cards and departed. Madeline let out a shaky breath. "Another reminder of how close I came to—" She trailed off, eyebrows drawing together. Travis touched her elbow gently. "You survived. That's what matters." She looked up, eyes searching his face for a moment. "Right, but survival is just the first step. Now I have to protect my company." Her voice hardened. "Let's go up to my office. There are some documents I'd like to review with you, if you're willing." He raised an eyebrow. "Me? I'm no business consultant." A flicker of amusement crossed her features. "I just need your gut instincts on a few things. Sometimes an outside perspective helps." They made their way back upstairs, stepping into a sleek office that overlooked the Dallas skyline. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city's bustle. Madeline's desk was immaculate, save for a laptop, a leather portfolio, and a vase of wilted flowers, probably sent by someone eager to curry favor. She sank into her executive chair and motioned for Travis to sit opposite. Opening the portfolio, she revealed financial reports, contracts, and organizational charts. Her expression darkened. "Here," she said, pointing to a cluster of lines and figures. "This is a budget reallocation Robert pushed through while I was missing. It's funneling funds to a project that never got my approval." Travis leaned forward, scanning the page. He could make out the basic idea, hundreds of thousands of dollars rerouted to a shady development. "Looks fishy," he said simply. She nodded. "Exactly. I suspect Robert's using the chaos to push an agenda or impress certain board members. If this becomes public, it'll look like I sanctioned it. So call him out. You're the CEO," Travis said, matter of fact. Madeline rubbed her temples. "It's not that simple. The board respects him. I need proof he's acting against our best interests. If I confront him with nothing, I look unstable." She flicked her gaze toward her injuries. "He's probably banking on that." Travis exhaled, scanning her face. "You were in a plane crash, not a mental breakdown. If your board can't see that," she gave a sardonic laugh. "Corporate politics can be vicious. People sense weakness." Then her voice softened. "I learned that a long time ago. And I swore I'd never be caught off guard." He studied her posture, the way she braced herself behind the desk. "Is that why you're so driven, afraid of losing what you built?" A shadow crossed her features. Let's just say I know what it's like to have everything slip through your fingers. She closed the portfolio. I need a plan, something that puts me back in control. Travis leaned back, arms folded. What if I stuck around a bit? Keep an ear open, watch Robert's moves while you heal. You said you needed an ally. Maybe I can be that, at least until we figure out what he's up to. Surprise lit her eyes. You'd do that, he shrugged. I'm no fancy executive, but I can pick up on people's intentions. Ranch folks are good at reading bulls when they're about to charge. She let out a genuine laugh at that, then winced at the pain in her ribs. You're full of surprises, Travis Ward. A contemplative look flickered across her face. I could arrange compensation. He raised a hand. Not everything is about money. Let's just say, until you've got your footing, I'll help however I can. Afterwards, I'll go back to my ranch. Madeline's gaze lingered on his weathered face, sincerity shining through her dark eyes. Okay, let's do it. One condition, though. If this becomes too much, you tell me. He smirked. Deal. A knock on the office door startled them. Carla poked her head in again, glancing between them curiously. Ms. Callahan, Robert's wondering if you're free for a brief follow-up on the budget items. Madeline arched an eyebrow at Travis, a silent agreement passing between them. She turned to Carla, her voice calm. Yes, invite him in. This shouldn't take long. As Carla left, Travis stood, moving around the desk to stand beside Madeline's chair. Their eyes met, an unspoken alliance forming between two very different worlds. Outside, the sun dipped behind the skyline, shadows stretching across the polished floor, and for the first time in a long while, neither felt entirely alone. Robert entered with a brief knock, his stride purposeful. Madeline, I wanted to confirm the reallocation details. He glanced at Travis, suspicion twitching at his brow. Oh, I didn't realize you had company. Madeline gestured casually. Travis Ward is assisting me with certain operational reviews. Please, have a seat. Her voice was polite but firm. Robert's expression tightened, but he obeyed. Of course. I'm merely ensuring we're aligned on the new project budget. We diverted funds to expedite property acquisitions. She cut in smoothly. Actually, I've been reviewing the documents you signed off on while I was incapacitated. I'm curious why you felt the need to rush purchases without my explicit approval. He shifted in his seat. I presumed time was of the essence. Investors demanded action. We couldn't afford delays. His tone dripped with practiced confidence. Madeline's eyes narrowed. I see. She folded her hands, glancing at Travis. Mr. Ward, you had a thought on that timeline, didn't you? Travis cleared his throat. Right. Seems suspicious that all these acquisitions came due exactly when Ms. Callahan was out of commission. Storm or not, a major move like that usually has more lead time. And presumably, you had her contact info. Robert's jaw clenched. With all due respect, I don't report to an outsider. Are you insinuating I took advantage of Ms. Callahan's absence? Travis held his ground. I'm just stating facts. If you wanted her input, you could have waited a few days. Madeline's eyes flicked between them, tension bristling. Robert, from now on, any purchase above a certain threshold must come directly to me. Understood? He forced a smile. Of course, I'm just glad you're back to take the reins. Rising from the chair, he smoothed his tie. I'll leave the files with you. If you need anything else, let me know. Without waiting for a response, he strode out, irritation evident in each step. The door clicked shut. Madeline let out a pent-up breath, turning to Travis with a faint grin. You sure you're okay being dragged into this corporate drama? I don't want you regretting it. He shrugged. If I can wrangle cattle, I can handle a slick CFO. She laughed softly. I like having you around. A pause lingered, charged with the spark of something unspoken. Finally, she stood. Come on, let me show you another side of this city, one without boardrooms. They left the office, dodging curious stares from employees as they rode the elevator down. Outside, the sun was dipping low, casting warm light across the streets. Madeline guided Travis to a nearby rooftop bar she frequented for networking events, though tonight it was mostly a chance to unwind. A hostess recognized Madeline immediately, ushering them to a private table overlooking the cityscape. The glow of string lights reflected in windows and the hum of chatter filled the open-air terrace. Travis settled into a cushioned chair, glancing at the hip crowd dressed in designer clothes. He felt out of place in his dusty boots, but Madeline's presence soothed him. Over a pair of simple drinks, hers a sparkling water to avoid mixing medication, his a local craft beer, they spoke more freely. The tension of the day began to melt away. She teased him about his unwavering ranch life. No corporate expansions planned. You could go national with your cattle brand. He chuckled. I'm content with what I've got. Land, horses, a roof. Success for me is paying bills on time and getting a decent harvest. My father tried to expand once, got burned pretty bad by a partnership gone sour. Madeline's brow lifted. I didn't know your father was part of the ranch. Travis's smile faded. He passed a few years ago, left me a mountain of debt. I'm still clawing my way out of it. Her gaze softened. I'm sorry. He fiddled with the coaster. That's life, though. You deal with what comes your way. He looked at her bandage. Guess we share that attitude. She inhaled deeply. I suppose we do. Most people see me as some untouchable CEO, but I've lost plenty. My mother died when I was 19. My father checked out emotionally after that. I built my company to prove I could stand on my own. Sometimes I think I've taken it too far. He watched her, understanding in his eyes. Ambition can be lonely. She stared into her glass. Yeah, it is. A gentle breeze ruffled her hair, carrying the distant sounds of traffic. For a moment, they took in the view. Tall buildings, neon signs, the swirl of city lights. Underneath the bright facade, they both recognized a longing for something genuine, something stable. Eventually, Madeline set down her drink. I have an idea. I need to visit one of the development sites Robert's pushing. Maybe if we go together, we can see what he's really up to. Travis nodded. When? She flashed a mischievous grin. Tomorrow morning. I'll clear my schedule. Besides, it's a chance for you to see where these fishy funds are going. He chuckled. All right, but after that, I should probably check on my ranch, or Dylan will think I've run off to join a traveling circus. She tilted her head, curiosity shining in her eyes. Why haven't you gone back already? He let the question hang for a moment, then answered honestly, because something about you makes it hard to walk away. Her lips parted slightly in surprise, cheeks coloring under the soft lights. Travis, he shrugged, glancing down. I'm not saying I understand it, but you asked, so there it is. She swallowed, words caught in her throat. Instead of speaking, she reached across the table, her fingers lightly brushing his hand. Electricity crackled in that brief contact. Neither moved to deepen the moment, yet neither pulled away. Above them, the sky glowed with the city's haze, and the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them on that rooftop. After a beat, she quietly said, "Thank you for staying." He gave her a small, warm smile. Anytime. They finished their drinks in companionable silence, letting the unspoken tension speak for itself. By the time they left, night had fully descended. Travis walked her back to her driver, ensuring she got in safely. As the car pulled away, he stood on the curb, heart pounding with a confusing blend of yearning and caution. He remembered the crash, the chaos, the bond forged in flames, and he realized that even in this urban jungle, the spark between them burned just as fiercely. Early the next day, Travis pulled up in front of Madeline's downtown condo building. Sharp morning light glinted off skyscraper windows, promising a hot Texas day. He'd half expected her to cancel after the emotional evening, but she'd texted him the address and a simple "pick me up at 7 a.m. Punctual as ever, he thought with a grin. She emerged from the lobby wearing a crisp blouse, jeans that balanced professionalism with comfort, and low-heeled boots. A thin line of bruise still peeked beneath her concealer, but she walked with renewed purpose. He hopped out and opened the truck door. "Morning, you ready for this?" She offered a tight smile. "As ready as I'll ever be." Climbing inside, she inhaled the faint scent of leather and old coffee cups. "You sure your truck can handle city miles?" He laughed, starting the engine. "She's used to dirt roads, but we'll manage." They headed east, weaving through rush-hour traffic. Madeline stared at the passing office towers. "I rarely leave the center of Dallas. This property is on the outskirts, near some industrial zones we plan to redevelop. Robert pitched it as an urban renewal opportunity." Travis kept his eyes on the road. "And you didn't sign off on it?" She shook her head. "We were still in negotiations. Then the crash happened, and apparently he took that as a green light." They exited onto smaller roads, warehouses dotting the skyline, graffiti-stained walls and neglected lots. Eventually, they turned onto a deserted street lined with chain-link fences. "That's the address," Madeline said, pointing to a half-collapsed sign that read, "Future Site, Callahan Industries." A battered padlock secured the fence, though the gate was slightly ajar. Travis parked, and they stepped out, the heat hitting them in a wave. "Doesn't look like much," he commented, scanning the overgrown lot. "How much money did Robert pour into this place?" "Too much," she muttered. They pushed aside the creaking gate. Beyond, piles of rubble and metal scraps littered the area. A few crows squawked, startled by the intrusion. Madeline grimaced. "He justified this as part of a quick acquisition strategy, but I see no sign of new construction, just a neglected lot." Travis moved closer to an abandoned building. "Something's off," he muttered, noticing fresh tire tracks in the dust. "Looks like someone's been here recently." She followed his gaze, unease twisting her features. Could be anything. A maintenance crew, maybe? Just then, two figures stepped from the shadowed interior of the old warehouse. They wore casual work clothes, but carried themselves with a guarded air. One of them, a tall woman with a clipboard, froze upon seeing Madeline and Travis. "Who are you?" the woman barked. Madeline stepped forward, shoulders squared. "I'm Madeline Callahan, CEO of this site's holding company. You?" The woman exchanged a glance with her companion. "We're contracted to do an inspection. Didn't realize the owner would drop by." Travis noticed the man shifting nervously, as if trying to hide something behind his back. "Inspection for what?" Travis pressed. "Structural viability," the woman said quickly. "Robert authorized it. He said the company might demolish this building soon. We're just surveying the hazards." Madeline narrowed her eyes. "Without my approval, I'm still the CEO." An uneasy silence followed. The two inspectors muttered something about following orders, then hurried away, slipping around the side of the warehouse. Madeline started to go after them, but Travis gently caught her arm. "Hold on. Let's not corner them unprepared. They don't seem dangerous, but they're definitely skittish." She frowned, anger and confusion warring on her face. "What is Robert doing? If this site isn't worth developing, why funnel funds into it?" Travis studied the half-collapsed building. "Could be someone's trying to hide something, or funnel money into a shell project." His voice dropped. "Money laundering, maybe? Embezzlement?" I've seen shady deals go down on worthless properties before. Her eyes widened. That's a serious allegation, but it would explain the sudden purchase and hush-hush operations. He nodded grimly. We need proof. She ran a hand through her hair, tension building. And if Robert's orchestrating something illegal behind my back... She swallowed. It could destroy my company. Travis's expression hardened. We'll figure it out. But you have to be careful. Don't confront him without evidence. He'll just deny everything. She let out a shaky breath. Okay, let's go. I'll have Carla start digging through financial records. Maybe she'll find suspicious transactions. They retreated to the truck. As Travis drove away, Madeline tapped furiously on her phone, texting Carla a list of requests. I hate this cloak and dagger nonsense, she muttered. Robert was never a friend, but I trusted him enough to manage critical finances. Travis risked a glance at her. Blind trust can get you in trouble. Especially when big money's at stake, she frowned, staring out the window. I've always done business by the book. If he's crossing the line, I'll bury him. But I need a strategy. He placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, startling himself with the casual intimacy. You're not alone in this, and I've got a feeling you're a force to be reckoned with. Her gaze flicked to him, a small, grateful smile forming despite the anxiety swirling in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I feel braver when you're around. They drove on in silence, tension filling the air. Eventually, the Dallas skyline reappeared, a gleaming reminder of the empire Madeline had built. Fear gnawed at her. If Robert's schemes came to light, it could threaten everything, but letting him run wild would be worse. Travis pulled up to her condo building. She climbed out, still clutching her phone like a lifeline. I'll call a meeting with my legal counsel tomorrow. In the meantime, can you come by later? Maybe we can discuss next steps, and maybe have dinner. Her invitation, both practical and personal, warmed him. Count on it. You need anything, you call. She nodded, stepping back onto the sidewalk. He watched her enter the building, every inch the determined CEO, yet carrying invisible scars from the plane crash and from the betrayal that now loomed. As he drove off, Travis realized how deeply he cared about her well-being. This wasn't just about repaying a debt from that night in the storm. It was about protecting someone who was slipping under his skin, stirring hope in places he'd forgotten existed. But the road ahead was fraught with danger, both corporate and emotional. For both of them, every step would require nerve, trust, and a willingness to face the cracks in their armor. Late that evening, Travis made his way to Madeline's condo again. The city lights shimmered against the dark sky, and a quiet tension settled over him as he parked in the underground garage. She'd texted him the code, trusting him with private access. A leap of faith, he thought, stepping into the elevator. The doors slid open onto a spacious penthouse hall. Madeline stood waiting, dressed in comfortable slacks and a loose blouse that concealed her bandaged ribs. When she saw him, a hint of relief brightened her tired eyes. "Come in," she said, voice soft. He stepped into the living area, taking in the minimalist decor, the floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city skyline. A small dining table was set with 2 plates of takeout. Thai food, judging by the aroma, soft jazz played from hidden speakers. She offered a weary smile. "I've had enough corporate battles for one day. I just want an honest conversation and some decent pad thai." He grinned, removing his hat and placing it on a side table. "Sounds perfect." They settled across from each other, the city's glittering lights their backdrop. For a while, they simply ate, letting the spicy noodles and warm conversation melt away the day's tension. Eventually, Madeline pushed her plate aside. "Carla found something," she began, voice grim. "Robert has a private LLC that's received funds from our accounts. Not a lot in each transfer, but over time, It adds up to millions. Travis leaned forward, heart pounding. That sure sounds like embezzlement. She nodded, lips tight. I'll need a forensic accountant to confirm. If it's true, we'll have to act fast before Robert catches on. He placed a hand over hers, an instinctive gesture. You've got this. She met his gaze, vulnerability cracking her usual composure. I'm scared, Travis. If he's doing this, it could implode the company's stock prices, my career, my employees' jobs. It's all on the line. A tremor laced her voice. I've worked my entire life to build something unassailable. Now one man's greed could ruin it. He squeezed her hand gently. You're tougher than you think. We'll expose him, legally and cleanly. Then you'll come out even stronger. A tear threatened to escape her eye. I'm not used to leaning on anyone. He exhaled, brushing his thumb across her knuckles. Maybe it's time you tried. She swallowed, nodding faintly. Then, with a shaky breath, she stood and walked to the window. Travis followed, the twinkling skyline reflected in the glass. Her voice was quiet when she spoke again. The night of the crash, when I felt the plane drop, all I could think was that I'd die alone, that no one would mourn me, except maybe as a headline for a day. She hugged her arms around herself. But then you came. You pulled me out. You stayed. And I'm not sure how to handle that. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to handle it alone. She turned to face him, eyes shining with unshed tears. You make me feel safe, she admitted, voice trembling with honesty. I've never let myself need anyone. But with you... Emotions swirled in the space between them, hot and insistent. He hesitated, then allowed himself to step closer, lifting a hand to softly brush a strand of hair from her face. Madeline. She inhaled sharply, her gaze flicking to his lips. For a heartbeat, they hovered at the edge of something new, something terrifying and electric. Then her phone buzzed on the table, shattering the moment. Startled, she closed her eyes, cursing under her breath. I'm sorry, she muttered, grabbing the phone. Her expression darkened. It's Robert. He's demanding a meeting first thing tomorrow. Probably suspects I'm onto him. Travis let out a slow exhale, stepping back to compose himself. What are you going to do? She squared her shoulders. I'll meet him, but I won't go unprepared. Carla's gathering documents, and I'll have legal counsel on standby. She glanced at Travis, a silent question in her eyes. He understood immediately. You want me there? Yes, not in the room, but nearby. If anything goes wrong... She trailed off, gripping the phone with white-knuckled intensity. He placed a reassuring hand on her elbow. I'll be there. One call, and I'll walk in swinging if I have to. Her lips curved into a faint smile. I appreciate the cowboy approach, but let's hope it doesn't come to that. She set the phone aside, turning back to him. I'm sorry about... Earlier, she waved vaguely at the space between them, referencing the moment they'd nearly shared. He shook his head. No need to apologize. We're both juggling a lot. He paused, letting honesty guide him. But for what it's worth, I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me to. She let out a long, unsteady breath, nodding. I don't want you to go, she whispered, the words as intimate as a confession. Emotion charged the air once again, but this time they chose caution. The crisis loomed too large for them to get lost in something they didn't fully understand yet. Instead, Travis gently drew her into a brief hug, careful not to press her injured ribs. She rested her head on his chest, inhaling the faint scent of leather and soap, feeling the steady beat of his heart. After a moment, she stepped back, eyes glistening. Thank you. For everything. He inclined his head, the warmth of her lingering against him. Let's get through tomorrow, then we can figure out where we stand. She managed a brave smile. Deal. He reluctantly made his way to the door. In the hall, he paused to glance back at her. Bathed in the glow of city lights, she looked both powerful and impossibly fragile. Their gazes locked, and without words, they acknowledged something had shifted. This wasn't just a rescue mission or a business arrangement. They were tipping into deeper waters, and neither knew how to swim back to the shore. He headed to the elevator, determination mingling with a hint of fear. Tomorrow's confrontation could redefine everything for her company and for them. But for the first time, Travis felt a surge of hope stirring beneath the anxiety. Because if they could stand together in this battle, maybe they could conquer the storms still raging within each of them. Morning light bathed the sleek conference room where Madeline sat at one end of a polished table, chin lifted with quiet resolve. Robert stood at the opposite end, his tailored suit and dismissive sneer betraying his confidence. Two other board members lingered between them, exchanging uneasy glances. Outside, the Dallas skyline sparkled, as if oblivious to the tension inside. Travis leaned against the wall, arms folded. He was officially just an observer, but his protective stance said otherwise. Carla sat near Madeline, furiously typing notes on a laptop. The room smelled faintly of burnt coffee and nervous sweat. "All right," Robert began, clearing his throat with theatrical solemnity. "Let's address these alleged financial discrepancies. I assure you, everything has been done in the company's best interest." Madeline's gaze didn't waver. "Then you won't mind explaining the transfers into your private LLC?" A flicker of discomfort crossed Robert's face. He forced a smile. "Those were stopgap measures, temporary rerouting to secure intangible assets. Once the deals finalize, the funds revert to the company. It's all above board." Carla's eyebrows rose at the bold claim. Madeline tapped her pen on the table. "Show me the documentation." Robert hesitated. He glanced at the two board members, apparently hoping for support. Neither spoke up, their expressions cautious. Finally, he shrugged. "I'm gathering the files. With the plane crash, the timeline was disrupted, but I'll produce everything by the end of the week." Madeline arched an eyebrow. "You have 24 hours. I'm initiating a forensic audit. If you've truly acted in good faith, you'll have no issue, correct?" A muscle in Robert's jaw twitched. "Of course not." Silence coiled in the room. Madeline looked at the board members. "Schedule an emergency session tomorrow. We'll review Robert's evidence. Until then, no further transactions proceed without my signature." They nodded in agreement, though their eyes darted between Robert and Madeline, as if sensing an internal power struggle reaching its peak. Travis said nothing, but he noticed Robert's glare flick in his direction. He tensed, bracing for confrontation. Instead, Robert gathered his papers, lips pressed thin. "Fine. Tomorrow, then." He stalked out, slamming the door behind him. A collective breath seemed to escape everyone else. Madeline looked at Carla. "Please make copies of everything we have on this. Forward it to legal." "We won't give him a chance to destroy evidence." Carla nodded briskly, then hurried off, laptop clutched to her chest. The remaining board members offered lukewarm support, an awkward mix of "we trust you, Ms. Callahan," and "let's hope it's a misunderstanding." Once they drifted out, the room fell quiet. Travis crossed over to Madeline. "You okay?" She exhaled, shoulders drooping. "I will be. This is worse than I imagined." "He's not even bothering to hide his contempt, because he thinks you're vulnerable," Travis said softly. "He's counting on confusion from the crash." She tapped her pen again, frustration edging her voice. "I'm tired of people seeing me as a casualty. I'm stronger than that." He reached out and briefly touched her arm. "I know you are. We just need to corner him with undeniable proof." She mustered a tight smile. "Right, one more day." Rising, she gathered her papers. "There's a meeting with my legal team in an hour, but after that, let's talk. We need to plan every angle. Travis nodded. I'll be around. Stay sharp. She left, professional mask firmly in place. Yet as she walked away, he saw the subtle stiffness in her posture, a reminder that she was still healing, physically and emotionally. He suppressed a surge of protectiveness, reminding himself she didn't need coddling. She needed respect and real support. Outside the conference room, staffers hurried through corridors, phones ringing, heels clicking on the marble floors. Travis found a quiet corner near the reception area. He texted Dylan to confirm things were stable at the ranch. No crises except a stubborn mare that wouldn't leave the hay supply alone. For a moment, Travis wished for the dusty simplicity of home. But he couldn't leave Madeline now, not in the middle of this storm. His phone buzzed again. A message from Madeline. Meet me in my office at noon. Need to coordinate. Thanks. It struck him how far they'd come. Just days ago, they were strangers. Now, they were bound by secrets and a growing closeness he couldn't ignore. He made his way to her top-floor office at the appointed time. Madeline was on a call, voice low and urgent. She motioned for him to shut the door. Travis complied, sinking into a plush chair. City views sprawled behind her, an imposing backdrop for an even more imposing woman. She finished the call and rubbed her temples. That was my attorney. They're preparing an injunction to freeze certain accounts until we can verify transactions. That'll corner Robert, Travis said, nodding approval. Exactly, but it'll also cause panic if word leaks. She paused, her dark eyes scanning his face. Thank you for being here. It helps. He swallowed, ignoring the flutter in his chest. Glad I can do something. They locked gazes, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Then she shook her head, as if clearing away personal thoughts. Let's focus. The board meets tomorrow morning at 9. I want you there, outside the room again, just in case. Travis arched an eyebrow. In case Robert tries something underhanded. Her lips pressed into a firm line. He wouldn't dare threaten me physically, but intimidation, undermining my authority. Absolutely. Travis's jaw tightened. He won't get far. She gave a small nod, a flicker of relief in her eyes. They spent the next hour combing through documents, preparing bullet points for the board session. Each passing minute ratcheted the tension higher. By the time they wrapped up, it felt like the calm before a storm. Go get some rest, she finally told Travis, leaning back in her chair. Tomorrow will be intense. He rose, tipping his hat slightly in a playful salute. You do the same. She laughed softly. I'll try. As he left, Travis felt the weight of what lay ahead. This showdown could make or break her entire legacy, and he was determined not to let her face it alone, no matter how murky the corporate waters became. By dawn, Madeline was already in her office, reviewing printouts of suspicious LLC transfers. Travis arrived a half-hour later, bearing 2 cups of black coffee from a nearby cafe. She accepted hers with a grateful smile, tension etched around her eyes. Today was the day. The day she either cornered Robert or watched him slip through her fingers, dragging her company down in the process. Travis could practically feel her pulse quicken as employees trickled in, each sensing the high stakes. Thank you, she murmured, sipping the coffee. I didn't have time for breakfast. He leaned against the edge of her desk. Got your notes ready? She patted a neatly organized folder. Everything's here. Carla's printing final attachments now. Legal counsel will join us in the boardroom. Her gaze flickered with determination. I want Robert cornered. 10 minutes before the meeting, they headed to the executive floor together. The corridor felt unusually silent, as if everyone was holding their breath. A pair of security guards lingered near the entrance, standard protocol for high-stakes corporate sessions, but the vibe was more tense than usual. Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere crackled. Directors sat in a semicircle, reviewing thick packets. Robert stood at the far end, posture rigid, a cool confidence in his eyes. Madeline took her seat at the head, flanked by two lawyers. Travis stationed himself by the door, arms crossed. "Let's begin," Madeline announced. Her voice, though measured, carried the weight of authority. "We're here to discuss the findings of our internal review regarding certain allocations." Robert cleared his throat, flicking a glance at the directors. "I've compiled all relevant documents to show there was no wrongdoing. I acted swiftly in Mrs. Callahan's absence, but always in good faith." One of the lawyers spoke up. "Mr. Harmon, your LLC, Harmon Strategic Ventures, received over $2 million from Callahan Industries in separate wire transfers. Could you clarify why those funds were not channeled through standard corporate accounts?" A tiny vein pulsed at Robert's temple. "It was a strategic tax shelter to expedite acquisitions," he replied smoothly. "The funds are still under the company's control, just in a temporary holding pattern. It's a legitimate mechanism used by many corporations." Madeline tapped her folder, producing copies of internal emails. "We have messages, some from your personal account, suggesting you intended to keep certain transactions off the books until you could secure more board support." "Care to explain that?" Robert skimmed the copies, lips thinning. "This is a misunderstanding. Off the books was a poor choice of words. I simply meant it was a preliminary strategy." At that, murmurs rippled among the board. Madeline exchanged a glance with her legal counsel. The tide felt like it was shifting in her favor, but Robert kept his composure. One director, Ms. Pearson, leaned forward. "Robert, if your motives were legitimate, why not wait for Ms. Callahan's approval once she'd recovered?" A flicker of annoyance crossed his features. "Because we couldn't afford delays. You saw the market volatility. Time was of the essence." Madeline seized the opening. "Yet we've uncovered no evidence of successful deals, only suspicious property records in disrepair. Where's the return on our urgent investment?" Robert's face reddened slightly. "The real estate is an undervalued asset. Once we demolish the current structures and rezone, we'll profit. Unless there are no real plans for rezoning," Madeline countered. "We found no official applications filed with the city." Silence. Robert's hand trembled on his stack of papers. For the first time, he looked rattled. Travis watched the exchange intently. This was the turning point, Madeline pressing every advantage, Robert scrambling. If she could keep the pressure on, he'd crack or lash out. Finally, Robert sneered. "You're still recovering from your accident, Madeline. Are we sure you're not seeing shadows where there are none?" Madeline stiffened, pain flickering in her eyes. The lawyers bristled. Before she could respond, Travis stepped forward. A single low warning rang in his voice. "Don't you dare undermine her injuries. She's sharper than you'll ever be." A hush fell. The directors glanced nervously between Travis and Robert. Robert's glare shifted to Travis. "Who are you to speak here?" Madeline raised a hand. "He's with me," she said evenly, quiet authority cutting through the tension. Then her voice hardened. "Don't question my mental capacity again. You wanted to see me out of the picture. Well, I'm here, fully involved, and not backing down." Robert's lips curled into a grim smile. "Fine. I see you've stacked the deck." He spread his arms in faux defeat. "If the board feels I've overstepped, then I'll willingly step aside for now. But understand, pulling these funds back abruptly could cost us millions. The consequences fall on your shoulders." Some of the directors exchanged uneasy looks, uncertain how to proceed. Madeline set her jaw. Better to lose a short-term gamble than let a potential crime go unchecked. Let the forensic audit continue. After a heavy pause, Ms. Pearson spoke again, voice wavering. "I propose a temporary suspension of Mr. Harmon's powers until the audit is complete. Mr. Callahan, do you agree?" Madeline's eyes never left Robert's. "Yes." A formal vote followed. 5-2 in favor of suspending Robert's authority pending investigation. Robert accepted it with icy composure. He gathered his papers and strode out, not bothering to glance at Madeline. As soon as the doors shut, tension cracked like a thunderclap. Some board members hurried over to offer cautious congratulations to Madeline. Others muttered about the ramifications for the company's stock. Travis approached her, heart pounding. "You did it." She let out a shaky breath, relief and worry mingling in her eyes. "For now. But I doubt he'll go quietly." He placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "One fight at a time." Her nod was slow, the victory half-sweet. They'd scored a significant win, but beneath the surface, she sensed Robert's fury simmering, and a part of her knew that when he struck back, it would be with everything he had. By late afternoon, the aftershocks of Robert's suspension rippled through the office. Some employees cheered Madeline's decisive leadership, others worried about retribution if Robert cleared his name. Tension brewed in every hallway, fueled by whispers of scandal. Madeline huddled with Carla and the legal team in her office, finalizing the next steps for the forensic audit. Travis hovered nearby, watching Madeline's stamina wane. She'd been at it all day, reviewing documents, fielding calls from anxious shareholders, and reassuring department heads. When the lawyers finally left, Madeline slumped in her chair. Carla cleared her throat. "Mrs. Callahan, you need a break." "You haven't eaten since breakfast." Madeline opened her mouth to protest, but Travis chimed in. "She's right. Come on, let's get you home." Carla gave a small smile. "I'll finish up the last bits here. See you tomorrow, boss." With that, she exited, leaving the two of them alone. Madeline attempted to stand, but swayed, pressing a hand to her bandaged ribs. Travis steadied her, concern tightening his features. "You pushing too hard?" She inhaled sharply. "I'm fine. Just exhausted." Without further argument, he grabbed her briefcase and gently guided her out. The office fell silent as employees clocked out, each departure leaving the place emptier, more hollow. They reached the parking garage, and Travis helped her into the passenger seat of his truck. "I'll drive you to your condo," he said, climbing behind the wheel. She leaned her head against the seat, eyes closed. "You must think I'm a workaholic." He started the engine. "I think you're fighting for what's yours. But yeah, you need to pace yourself." As they navigated through early evening traffic, Madeline's phone buzzed. She glanced at the caller ID and frowned. "Unknown number," she muttered, answering on speaker. "Hello?" A tense silence, then Robert's voice crackled through. "Madeline." She stiffened. "You have no business calling me directly." His tone dripped with resentment. "You think you've won by suspending me. You're delusional. I have allies on this board, and once the dust settles, they'll see you're on a witch hunt." Madeline's jaw clenched. "If you haven't committed fraud, you've got nothing to fear." A cold laugh reverberated. "Ah, but you forget. Your plane crash made headlines. Investors are jumpy. Stock dips happen fast. One slip-up on your part, and everything you've built comes crashing down. I hope you're prepared to lose it all." Travis's grip on the wheel tightened, adrenaline spiking. "You can't threaten her like that," Robert scoffed. "And who are you, her bodyguard, the ranch hand?" Travis flashed Madeline a concerned look, but she steadied her voice. "Keep talking, Robert. Every word only incriminates you further." Silence, then a bitter sigh. "Don't say I didn't warn you. What's your step, Madeline?" The line went dead. She stared at the phone, pulse pounding. "He's desperate," she said, trying to sound calm, but her trembling hands betrayed her fear. Travis set his jaw. "He's not above intimidation. We'll have to watch out." Night fell by the time they arrived at her condo. He insisted on walking her to the door, Once inside, she flicked on the lights, the spacious interior offering little comfort against Robert's ominous threat. "You want me to stay for a bit?" Travis asked quietly. She hesitated, glancing around the empty living room. Memories of the crash loomed in her mind, that suffocating feeling of being trapped, alone. Finally, she nodded. "Yes, if you don't mind." He stepped in, locking the door behind him. "Mind? Not at all." She dropped onto the couch, massaging her temples. "I hate feeling powerless, and I hate letting him get under my skin. But after that call..." She trailed off, frustration and worry mingling in her gaze. Travis sat beside her, leaving a respectful distance. "He's counting on you being rattled. Don't give him that power." She exhaled a shaky breath. "Easier said than done. All I can think about is the damage he could do. Leaking false stories, forging documents. He knows the system." Travis gently turned her to face him. "He might know the system, but he doesn't have your grit. You survived a plane crash, remember? And you've built this company from the ground up." He offered a half smile. "Robert's just a parasite feeding off it. Once he's exposed, he's done." Her eyes glistened with gratitude. "You always find a way to ground me. Thank you." A warm tension hung between them. The condo's quiet felt intimate, a sharp contrast to the day's chaos. Madeline's gaze flicked to Travis's lips, an echo of the moment they'd almost shared before. She took in a slow breath and spoke softly. "I keep thinking, if we weren't in the middle of this crisis, would things be different between us?" He swallowed hard. "Maybe, but crisis or not, I can't pretend I don't feel something. I just don't want to push you when you're juggling so much." She nodded, heart thudding. "I appreciate that, and I appreciate you." She started to reach for his hand, then paused, as if uncertain. Carefully, he closed the gap, taking her hand in his. "We'll figure this out, one step at a time." Her eyes welled up, a soft smile trembling on her lips. "Stay a while. I could use the company." He gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "I'm not going anywhere tonight." They settled there on the couch, the city lights flickering beyond the glass. No lavish dinners, no boardroom battles, just two people finding solace in each other's presence. Despite Robert's threats, a fragile peace settled over them, and for a moment, that was enough to keep the fear at bay. The next day brought a fresh wave of tension. At dawn, social media and financial news outlets buzzed with rumors of an internal power struggle at Callahan Industries. Stock prices took a slight dip, fueling speculation. By lunchtime, a leaked memo, allegedly from Robert, painted Madeline as a reckless leader recovering from trauma, unfit to guide the company. Carla burst into Madeline's office, phone clutched in her hand. "We have a problem," she said breathlessly. "Multiple news outlets want a statement about the memo. They're hinting you're mentally unfit after the crash." Madeline's face went pale with anger. "Robert, he's behind this." Travis, seated near the window, clenched his fists. "We figured he'd try something." Carla set down her phone, voice tight. "What do we do? The PR team's in a frenzy." Madeline took a measured breath. "Call an emergency press conference for this afternoon. I'll make a statement personally." Carla's eyes widened. "Are you sure that's wise? Going public can be risky." Madeline's jaw tightened. "I won't hide. If Robert wants to question my fitness, I'll show the world I'm fully capable and in control." After Carla left to make arrangements, Madeline turned to Travis. "This is exactly what Robert threatened. He wants me to stumble in front of the media." Travis nodded grimly. "So don't stumble. Show them the truth." She gave a determined nod, though uncertainty flickered in her eyes. "I hate public speaking. I only do it when I must." He rose, placing steady hands on her shoulders. "You got this. Remember, no one's more qualified to speak about your company than you." She offered a grateful smile. Thank you. Will you stand by me? Every step. That afternoon, the company's lobby transformed into a makeshift press area. Camera crews jostled for position in front of a small podium. Clusters of employees stood behind velvet ropes, some supportive, others curious or apprehensive. Madeline appeared in a tailored suit, bandage concealed under expertly styled hair, her injuries masked by subtle makeup. Only the faint shadow beneath her eyes hinted at sleepless nights. Travis hovered behind the cameras, scanning the crowd protectively. Carla remained at Madeline's side, briefing her on last-minute questions. Reporters murmured, setting up microphones. A hush fell when Madeline stepped to the podium, the bright lights spotlighting her every move. She cleared her throat, voice steady. Good afternoon. I'm Madeline Callahan, CEO of Callahan Industries. Recent rumors suggest I'm unable to lead effectively after surviving a plane crash. Let me be perfectly clear. I am fully committed and capable of running this company. My near-death experience has only strengthened my resolve. A ripple went through the reporters. Cameras zoomed in, capturing her expression. She continued, "Yes, I was injured. Yes, I'm still recovering. But my mind is sharp, my dedication unwavering. As for the alleged memo citing my unfitness, it was neither issued nor authorized by me. We suspect it originated from an individual seeking to undermine our leadership and stability." A reporter thrust forward. "Can you confirm if the CFO, Robert Harmon, is responsible?" Madeline's gaze hardened. "Mr. Harmon is suspended pending a forensic audit into questionable financial dealings. I have no further comment on his involvement. I ask for patience as we finalize our internal review." Flashbulbs popped, murmurs growing. Another reporter demanded specifics on the alleged fraud. Madeline kept her composure, offering carefully measured responses. Gradually, her calm confidence seemed to settle over the crowd. Even through the glaring lights, Travis could see the respect dawning in certain faces. Just as Madeline concluded, a commotion erupted by the lobby doors. Robert himself strode in, flanked by two men in suits. He approached the podium, ignoring security's attempts to stop him. "Madeline," he called, raising his voice, "are you so desperate you'll tarnish my name to save your skin?" Gasps and camera flashes swarmed. Madeline stiffened, but didn't step down. "Robert, this is a public statement. You have no right." He cut her off, turning to the press. "She's smearing me, using the crash as a sympathy card. I've got documents that prove my innocence and her reckless mismanagement." Travis tensed, prepared to intervene. But Madeline lifted a hand, silently telling him to stay back. She faced Robert head-on. "Then present them. We have a forensic audit in progress. If your claims are valid, you have nothing to fear." His nostrils flared. "You think you're untouchable because you almost died in that plane crash. People are questioning your sanity, Madeline. They see a CEO driven by paranoia, lashing out at loyal executives." She pressed her lips together. "I'm done entertaining your theatrics. This press conference is over." Turning to the cameras, she concluded, "Thank you. No further questions." Then she stepped away from the podium, heart hammering. Robert lunged for the mic, but security blocked him. "You'll regret this," he spat, voice echoing across the marble floor. "All of you will see the truth soon enough." Travis rushed forward, placing a steady hand on Madeline's back, guiding her away as the press clamored for a final shot. Robert's words rang ominously, stoking chaos in the crowd. It took a few tense minutes for security to restore order. In the privacy of a back corridor, Madeline leaned against the wall, trembling with a mix of rage and fear. "He just proved how far he'll go to destroy me," she whispered, in front of everyone. Travis cupped her elbow gently, concern etched in his face. "Then we'll match him, blow for blow. You didn't crumble, he did." She looked up, determination sparking anew. "Right. This is my company. He can't just walk in and take it. He nodded, admiration lacing his gaze. You stood your ground today. No matter what the headlines say, you showed them your strength. She swallowed hard, letting the adrenaline subside. Now the real fight begins. That evening, Madeline sat in her condo's living room, eyes fixed on the television. News channels replayed clips of the heated press conference. The narrative spun in different ways. Some anchors criticized her emotional outburst, others lauded her courage. Across every channel, Robert's dramatic intrusion dominated the headlines. Travis emerged from the kitchen, setting a mug of herbal tea in front of her. Figured you could use something calming, she managed a faint smile. Thanks. Her gaze flicked back to the screen, where a panel of pundits speculated on the company's future. They're acting like we're on the brink of collapse. He switched off the TV. We don't need their negativity right now. She curled her legs beneath her, exhaustion weighing down her features. Robert's assault on my reputation is working. Investors are panicking, the board's nervous, and the press is feasting on every scrap. Travis lowered himself onto the couch beside her. What about the audit results? That should expose him, she sighed. The forensic team needs more time to assemble a watertight case. In the meantime, Robert's feeding the media, stocks dropping by the hour. Some board members might flip if they think I can't stabilize this. The unspoken fear hung heavy. If enough directors lost faith, they could push Madeline out for the good of the company. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She eyed it warily before picking up. Carla, she answered. A moment later, her shoulders slumped. What do you mean an emergency board meeting? Who called it? She fell silent, listening with increasing dread. Okay, I'll be there first thing. She ended the call, setting the phone down with trembling fingers. Travis tensed. What happened? Her voice cracked. Robert invoked some clause, demanding an emergency vote on my leadership. He claims I'm endangering the firm's stability and mental well-being of the employees. Her eyes flickered with dismay. They want to vote me out, Travis. His jaw tightened. They can't just do that without a proper investigation. She swallowed hard, frustration giving way to despair. They can. The board has the power to remove a CEO if they believe it's in the company's best interest. And with stock prices dropping, they might be swayed. Her face paled, tears threatening. Everything I've worked for, my entire life, could be ripped away tomorrow. He leaned closer, taking her hands in his. Hey, we're not giving up. You'll fight this with every shred of evidence you have. She shook her head, tears brimming. What if they don't listen? My crash, my injuries, these rumors. People love a scandal. If they see me as unstable, they'll cut me loose to save their own skins. Travis's chest tightened. He'd never seen her so vulnerable, so close to defeat. He pulled her into his arms, letting her cling to him, her silent sobs muffled against his chest. I can't lose it all, she whispered, voice trembling. I can't go back to being powerless. He stroked her hair, heart aching. You're not powerless. You're hurt, blindsided, but you're still Madeline Callahan, the same woman who built this empire from nothing. Her tears fell hot against his shirt. If the board sides with Robert, it won't matter. My name, my dreams, gone. He kissed the top of her head gently, though the gesture surprised even him. Listen to me, he murmured, voice husky with emotion. No matter what happens tomorrow, you haven't lost yourself. The company is yours. If they push you out, you'll find another way. But we're going to do everything to stop that. She steadied, drawing in a shaky breath. What if it's too late? The meltdown is happening in real time. Investors might force the board's hand. Travis's mind raced. We need the results of that audit, or at least a preliminary finding, to show Robert's wrongdoing. If we can put something concrete in front of the board before they vote. She wiped her eyes, determination struggling to resurface. I'll call the forensic team. Even partial evidence might shift the tide. Nodding, he loosened his embrace slightly, though he kept an arm around her. Call them now. Let them know this can't wait. She reached for her phone and tapped a number with trembling fingers. Travis listened to her urgent pleas, heart pounding. The conversation was short, but from her bleak expression, it was clear the timing was razor thin. Ending the call, she closed her eyes. They'll try to rush some preliminary findings by morning, but it's risky. If anything's incomplete, it could blow up in my face. Travis gently squeezed her shoulder. We're backed into a corner, so we have to take the risk. She nodded, swallowing the last of her tears. I'll do whatever it takes. A heavy silence fell. Outside, the city lights shimmered, indifferent to their crisis. The weight of possible defeat pressed on both of them. For Madeline, it was a lifetime's work on the line. For Travis, the thought of her losing everything stirred a fierce protectiveness he'd never quite felt before. He took her hand again, the softness of her skin a stark contrast to the harsh reality closing in. You're not alone, he whispered, voice steady. We'll fight, and if tomorrow doesn't go our way, we'll regroup and fight again. Her eyes searched his, gratitude and fear mingling. I don't deserve you, she whispered. He pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. I'm exactly where I want to be. They sat there, huddled against the coming storm. The day had started with triumph, suspending Robert, but now he'd struck back, sowing chaos that threatened to destroy her entire legacy. In the quiet of her condo, the darkness felt suffocating, and the sense of loss loomed too close. All is lost, she murmured, as if speaking the words might exorcise them. Travis tightened his hold. Not yet, he said, voice resolute. Not while we still have each other. But as the night stretched on, both of them couldn't shake the chill that everything they'd fought for might vanish at dawn. Madeline woke with a pounding headache, the result of a restless night spent reliving every possible outcome of today's board vote. A dull gray light pressed against the condo windows, promising another scorching Dallas morning. She sat up in bed, eyes gritty from lack of sleep, and stared at the clock. 6:30. The emergency meeting started in 2 hours. Across the living room, Travis lay slumped on the couch, still fully clothed from the night before. He'd insisted on staying close, in case her fears got the best of her in the middle of the night. She rose slowly, ribs protesting with a sharp ache, a reminder of the plane crash that had sparked this whole chain of events. A wave of dread threatened to coil around her. Today, she could lose the position she'd spent her adult life building. She closed her eyes, willing herself to stay calm. Moments later, the faint smell of coffee drifted into the bedroom, stirring her to move. Padding into the kitchen, she found Travis already up, hair mussed from fitful sleep. He offered a weak smile, coffee mug in hand. "Morning," he said quietly. She accepted a steaming cup from him, inhaling its bitter warmth. "Didn't expect you to be awake yet," he shrugged. "Couldn't sleep. Figured coffee might help." Madeline took a careful sip, feeling the heat soothe her nerves. They lingered in silence, the condo feeling like a bunker before battle. Finally, she set down the mug. "I need to get dressed." Travis nodded, eyes meeting hers with quiet determination. "I'll be ready." Half an hour later, she emerged in a crisp navy suit, hair pinned back to hide as much of the lingering bruises as possible. She studied her reflection in the mirror by the entryway. She looked composed, but her eyes betrayed her anxiety. Travis stepped behind her, resting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You look strong," he said softly. "Don't doubt it." She met his gaze in the mirror, breathing steadier. "Thank you." They made the drive to headquarters in tense silence. Madeline's mind spun with strategies. She'd present the partial audit findings, highlight Robert's suspicious transfers, and emphasize her track record. But she knew board politics often ignored reason in favor of fear. One false note, and their decision might swing against her. When they arrived at the towering glass building, Carla was already in the lobby, phone glued to her ear. She motioned them over. "The board members are gathering," she said anxiously. "Some of them looked uneasy." Madeline nodded. "I expected that. Did we get anything new from the auditors?" Carla handed over a slender file folder. "Preliminary figures. Not a smoking gun, but it strongly suggests embezzlement, enough to raise serious doubts about Robert's innocence if they'll listen." Madeline exhaled shakily. They have to. The three of them rode the elevator up in tight-lipped anticipation. Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere was electric. Directors milled about, avoiding eye contact with Madeline. At the far end of the table, Robert leaned back in a chair, arms folded. He wore a triumphant grin, as if confident the day was his. The chairperson, Ms. Pearson, cleared her throat to call the meeting to order. "We're convened here to address the motion regarding Miss Callahan's leadership. Let's keep this civil." Robert spoke first, pushing to have Madeline removed. "With all due respect, the events of the last week show Ms. Callahan's emotional instability post-crash. Our stock has dipped 8% overnight. We need decisive leadership now." Madeline rose, hands steady on the table. "I have documents indicating your misuse of company funds. That's why the stock is rattled, because of uncertainty you created. The partial audit reveals repeated transfers into your private LLC." She laid out the sheets from Carla, her voice firm. "Directors, please review the data. This is only preliminary, but it strongly suggests wrongdoing. Let's let the final audit conclude before making a rash decision." A ripple of murmurs passed through the board. Robert's grin tightened. "We've been through this. Those were legitimate tax shelters, which I fully intend to reconcile." One of the more senior board members, Mr. Alvarez, studied the papers. "Tax shelters typically aren't hidden in an individual's LLC," he noted, glancing skeptically at Robert. Sensing he might be losing ground, Robert switched tactics. "Look at the headlines, folks. Investors are spooked by Mrs. Callahan's condition. She's facing PTSD, not to mention the physical toll. Our clients question if she can steer the ship." Madeline fought a shiver of rage. "I survived a crash, not a breakdown, and I've been here every single day since, fighting for this company. I'm committed and stable." Robert smirked, leaning forward. "Are you, or are you pushing yourself beyond reason to prove a point? If you burn out, this board will have even bigger problems." Mrs. Pearson rapped the table. "Enough. We'll put this to a vote shortly." She looked at Madeline. "Any final words?" Heart pounding, Madeline glanced across the somber faces. She swallowed, recalling every sacrifice she'd made since founding the company. Her voice came out calm, but laced with emotion. "I've dedicated my life to Callahan Industries. Yes, I was injured, but I'm stronger for it. My approach has always been transparent. If we give the auditors time, they'll confirm who's truly destabilizing this company. All I ask is we don't make a decision out of fear." She sat, every nerve humming. Ms. Pearson squared her shoulders. "We have two motions before us. One, to remove Ms. Callahan as CEO, citing instability and failing investor confidence. Two, to allow the audit to finish before any leadership change. Let's vote." Tension crackled. Directors exchanged glances, flipping through the papers one last time. The hush was so profound, Madeline could hear her own heartbeat. Travis, standing at the back, didn't dare breathe. Ms. Pearson began polling each member. "Mr. Alvarez," he cleared his throat, "I vote to wait for the audit. Removing Ms. Callahan now is premature." Robert's lips twitched, annoyance creeping across his face. "Ms. White?" The next director hesitated. I vote to remove Ms. Callahan. Our stock is dropping too quickly." Madeline clenched her fists, one for one against. The chairperson continued, going around the table. Each name called was like a hammer strike. Votes split, some citing Robert's scare tactics, others trusting Madeline's evidence. Finally, Ms. Pearson took a breath. "And I vote to—" A sudden commotion near the door cut her off. A young member of the forensic team burst in, out of breath, an envelope clutched in his hand. "Apologies for the interruption," he gasped, "but we've completed a crucial part of the audit." All eyes riveted to the newcomer. He handed Ms. Pearson the envelope, then offered another to Madeline. "It's more than preliminary now. We have actual trace evidence linking Mr. Harmon's LLC to suspicious offshore accounts." Robert leaped to his feet. "That's out of context." Miss Pearson's eyes narrowed at the document's contents. "This changes everything," Robert sputtered, scanning the room for allies. Several directors glared, angered by the new evidence. One or two paled, clearly shocked. Ms. Pearson squared her shoulders. "We'll finalize the vote with this new information, but so far it appears Miss Callahan has been transparent, while Mr. Harmon has not." Robert swore under his breath. "This is a setup." Madeline exhaled, relief flooding her veins. She glanced at Travis, who offered a small, encouraging nod. The official vote resumed, now heavily tilted in her favor. One by one, the directors sided with her until Miss Pearson spoke last. "By a clear majority, we reject the motion to remove Miss Callahan and reaffirm her position as CEO. Additionally, we'll pursue a full inquiry into Mr. Harmon's financial dealings." A mixture of triumph and shock rocked the boardroom. Madeline felt tears prick her eyes, though she kept her composure. Robert's face twisted in fury, but he had no recourse left. Security guards hovered by the door, silently poised to escort him out if needed. Madeline rose, a trembling smile on her lips. "Thank you," she said quietly to the room. Then, locking eyes with Robert, she added, "This company will survive your betrayal. I will ensure it." Robert slammed a hand on the table, but Miss Pearson's warning glance kept him from further outburst. Grabbing his briefcase, he stormed out. The tension broke like a snapped wire, leaving the board members stunned in his wake. Madeline steadied herself, whispering to Travis as he approached, "We won for now." He slid a warm hand over hers. "You did it, and we'll deal with Robert's fallout together." She closed her eyes, relief and exhaustion crashing in at once. It wasn't over, but she dodged the bullet aimed at her entire future. In the hush of the boardroom, surrounded by disoriented directors and scattered documents, Travis's presence was the only thing that felt certain. Madeline stepped out of the boardroom in a daze, adrenaline still coursing through her. Carla hurried to her side, relief shining in her eyes. "That was intense. I thought I'd have a heart attack." Madeline managed a rueful smile. "Me too. But we made it." She rubbed her temple, a faint headache forming. "Now we need to control the narrative. Robert's going to retaliate somehow. He'll spin the story or leak something damaging." Carla nodded. "I'll coordinate with PR immediately. We'll emphasize the audit's findings and your vindication." Travis hovered a few steps behind, arms relaxed but eyes alert. Madeline gestured him closer. "Thank you for everything," she said softly, ignoring the curious glances from a few passing employees. "You stood by me when things looked hopeless." He tipped his head in acknowledgement. "That's what friends do, right?" She gave him a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Right, friends." The word felt too small for the surge of gratitude and affection flooding her chest. But she left it unspoken, turning instead to Carla. "Can you handle the press follow-up on your own? I need to decompress for a few minutes." Carla squeezed her arm gently. "Go. I've got this." Madeline led Travis down a back corridor to her private office, the hallway quieter than usual. Once inside, she closed the door, leaning against it with a heavy sigh. I didn't realize just how close I was to losing everything. Travis approached, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. But you didn't. The board stood with you. She wrapped her arms around herself. Only after those audit results arrived. If that courier hadn't come in time. A tremor ran through her. I can't even think about it. He brushed a stray hair from her face. But it did arrive, and now Robert's the one under fire. She nodded, trying to absorb the relief. The tension in her body refused to dissipate entirely. I should be thrilled, but I'm terrified of the next blow. He's out there, probably plotting, and the press is still swarming. Travis hesitated, then gently drew her into a loose embrace. We'll handle it as it comes, one crisis at a time. She let herself relax against him for a moment, inhaling the faint scent of leather and coffee. The solace was brief but powerful, a quiet anchor in the swirling chaos. Pulling away, she exhaled. I need to address the staff, reassure them that the company's stable. Then I need to see if the police want to file formal charges against Robert. He nodded. You want me around for that? Her eyes flickered with warmth. Actually, yeah, I do. They made their way to an impromptu staff meeting in the main auditorium. Hundreds of employees filed in, anxious about rumors and gossip. Madeline stood on stage, posture straight despite the ache in her ribs. Travis watched from the wings, heart thumping with pride. She cleared her throat, voice echoing through the microphone. Thank you all for coming on short notice. I know the past few days have been tumultuous. Let me assure you, Callahan Industries remains strong. The allegations against me were unfounded, and the board has reaffirmed my position as CEO. Our focus now is on moving forward together. A wave of murmurs spread, some employees clapping softly. She continued, explaining that Robert Harmon was under investigation for financial misconduct. If you have questions, please direct them to HR or our legal team. For now, we continue business as usual. Her final words resonated with quiet strength. We survive together or we fall apart, and I refuse to let this company fall. Thunderous applause erupted. Relief glimmered in the faces of many, while some still looked wary. But overall, the crowd seemed ready to stand behind her. Travis felt a surge of admiration. She had a gift for uniting people, even under the worst pressure. Afterward, employees trickled out in clusters, buzzing with cautious optimism. Madeline stepped off the stage, wincing slightly. Travis caught her arm, concern etching his features. You okay? She let out a shaky laugh. I keep forgetting how beat up I still am physically. My head's pounding. Carla appeared, handing Madeline a bottle of water. Media requests are flooding in, but we can schedule them later. You should rest. Madeline eyed Travis, then Carla. Yes, rest. For once, I'll listen to my own advice. Carla smiled. Good, I'll field calls. You two get out of here. They left the building, stepping into the bright afternoon sun. A wave of heat pressed down. Travis unlocked his truck, and Madeline gratefully climbed in, leaning her head back against the seat. The ride to her condo was quiet, the tension of the day still vibrating between them. In her building's lobby, a security guard recognized her immediately. Good afternoon, Ms. Callahan, he said with respectful concern. We've had a few reporters lingering outside, but we're keeping them away from the residence. She thanked him, heading up in the elevator with Travis. I never realized how draining it is to be front-page news. I used to dream about media attention. When I was starting out, I craved recognition. Now I can't stand it. He pressed a gentle hand to her back. Life changes us. Sometimes success isn't what we imagined. She nodded, eyes distant. And sometimes the cost is too high. Reaching her condo, she unlocked the door, stepping into the blessed cool of the air conditioning. A swirl of emotions churned in her mind. Relief at securing her leadership, dread of Robert's next move, and a new awareness of how much Travis's presence meant to her. She hung her jacket on the back of a chair and sank onto the couch, letting out a slow exhale. Travis joined her, gaze cautious. "You want some space?" She shook her head. "No, I'd like you to stay. Maybe we can order dinner or something. I doubt I have the energy to cook." He managed a soft smile. "Of course, I'll get takeout menus. You relax." Before he stood, she caught his wrist, eyes flicking to his. "I mean it, Travis. Thank you. I couldn't have faced today alone." He placed his free hand over hers, warmth kindling behind his steady gaze. "You were never alone, Madeline." She felt the stir of emotions that had been building for days. Leaning in, she gently rested her forehead against his shoulder, allowing a rare moment of vulnerability. "I'm still scared," she whispered. He stroked her hair lightly. "Me too, but we'll figure it out." For a while, they just sat there, close enough to hear each other's breathing. Outside, the city bustled on, blissfully unaware of the private battles fought within high-rise walls. In that quiet living room, they clung to the fragile victory, hoping it would hold against the storms yet to come. Later that evening, half-eaten takeout cartons and empty glasses cluttered Madeline's coffee table. The condo lights were dim, casting a warm glow over the modern furniture. Travis sat cross-legged on the floor, arms draped over his knees, while Madeline reclined on the couch. They'd spent the past hour talking about anything but the company, childhood memories, favorite movies, the strangest foods they'd ever tasted, topics that felt safe, normal. An unspoken truce to give themselves a break from the weight of corporate battles. "So you're saying," Madeline teased, eyebrow arched, "that you once chased a wild Mustang for 8 hours straight because you thought it had gotten loose from another ranch?" Travis chuckled, cheeks coloring slightly. "Hey, I didn't know it was wild at the time. I was just being a good Samaritan. Turned out it was a feral horse that wanted nothing to do with me." She shook her head, smiling. "That's so you, running headfirst into a problem, thinking you're doing the right thing." His laughter faded into a soft grin. "Guess we have that in common, diving in to rescue strangers in danger." Her smile wavered. "Yeah. Without you, I'd still be trapped in that plane, or worse." She traced the rim of her glass, thinking back to the flames, the storm, and the terror that had gripped her. That night changed everything. He nodded, a serious note creeping into his voice. "It did. Sometimes I wonder why I decided to drive down that muddy path so fast. I mean, I heard the crash, but I could have called 911 and let emergency teams handle it. But something in me just couldn't ignore it." She reached out, resting her hand on his forearm. "I'm glad you didn't ignore it." They fell into a pensive silence. Outside, distant sirens reminded them they were in the heart of a bustling city, but here, in the low light, it felt oddly intimate. She shifted, clearing her throat. "You've helped me see that my work doesn't have to be everything. It used to define me, my success, my identity. But it's exhausting, living under that pressure all the time." He tilted his head, searching her eyes. "So what do you want now?" She chewed her lower lip, considering. "I still want the company to thrive. It's my legacy. But maybe I don't want to sacrifice every last part of myself for it. Especially after the crash. I realize how fragile life can be. I don't want to wake up at 80 with nothing but business awards." A flicker of relief touched his face. "I get that. I've seen folks chase glory until they're hollow. My father tried to expand our ranch, ended up bankrupting us. He died before he could fix it. I inherited his debt, his regret. Made me realize sometimes simpler is better." She ran her fingers absent-mindedly over the couch cushion. "Is that why you stay on the ranch? Because it's simpler?" "Partly," he admitted. "I feel close to him there too. My dad. Even though his choices left a mess, it was still his dream. I guess I'm carrying it on in my own way. She softened, voice quiet. I know the feeling of carrying on someone else's dream. After my mom died, I had this desperate need to succeed for both of us. She never got to see me build my empire. His gaze gentled. She'd be proud, you know. Madeline swallowed a sudden lump in her throat. I hope so. She was tough. Always told me not to let any man or any system hold me back. I listened, maybe too well. He leaned forward, resting an elbow on the coffee table. Too well, she sighed, rubbing her temples. I shut out a lot of people. I was so focused on proving I could do it alone that I forgot how to let anyone in. Even before the plane crash, I was lonely, but I wouldn't admit it. Travis reached for her hand. You're not alone anymore. Her heart pounded at the sincerity in his eyes. Then she thought of the differences that still loomed between them. His ranch life, her corporate world. Could they truly fit together in the long run? But tonight, she didn't want to analyze every angle. She just wanted to feel the warmth of his presence. She scooted off the couch, settling beside him on the floor, their shoulders touched. She let her head rest on his arm, closing her eyes as the tension of the day ebbed away. He slipped an arm around her, drawing her closer. In that hush, she felt the steady thump of his heart. It grounded her, reminding her that survival wasn't just about winning board votes. It was about allowing herself moments of peace, even tenderness. We should probably talk about us, she murmured after a while, voice barely above a whisper. He pressed his cheek against her hair. We can, but only if you're ready. She inhaled the faint scent of cologne and warmth that clung to his clothes. I'm not sure I have answers yet. I just know I don't want this to stop. He placed a gentle kiss on the top of her head. Me neither. She curled into him, letting the slow hum of the city lull her. Eventually, fatigue pulled her under, and she drifted into a half-doze, safe in his arms. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't haunted by crash nightmares or corporate treachery. Instead, she felt a cautious hope blooming in the quiet spaces they shared. The next morning, Madeline woke with a stiff neck from sleeping on the floor, but an unusual sense of contentment lingered. She blinked groggily, noticing Travis still dozing beside her, one arm draped protectively over her shoulder. A pang of affection tugged at her chest. This closeness felt both comforting and unsettling, so different from her typical solitary routine. She carefully extricated herself, smiling when he stirred, and gave a soft grunt. In the kitchen, she started coffee. By the time the aroma filled the condo, Travis joined her, hair tousled, eyes still heavy with sleep. Morning, he said, voice rough. She handed him a mug, feeling oddly shy. Morning. Sorry if the floor wasn't exactly comfortable, he stretched, rolling his shoulders. I've slept in worse places. Thanks for letting me crash here. She smirked at the unintentional pun. You saved me. Again. My nightmares weren't as bad with you around. Their eyes met, a charged hush passing between them. Finally, she cleared her throat. We should check in at the office. I want to see how the staff's reacting after yesterday's drama. And I need to get an update from legal on Robert's next steps, Travis nodded, sipping coffee. I'll tag along, unless you'd rather I... No, she cut in gently. I'd rather you stay. Her answer hung in the air, layered with meaning. He gave her a slow smile, warmth spreading in his gaze. Then I'll stay. They arrived at the office mid-morning, stepping into a lobby abuzz with subdued energy. Employees cast curious, friendly smiles at Madeline, relief evident in their postures. She noticed how the tension from previous days had eased. Carla greeted them outside Madeline's office with a thick folder. Good news. Our PR response seems effective. Stock prices are stabilizing. Though not fully recovered, investors are cautious but less panicky. Madeline flipped through the papers, eyes scanning bullet points. "That's something," she murmured. "Any word on Robert's reaction to the new audit data?" Carla shrugged. "He's gone quiet, but rumor has it he's trying to lawyer up, possibly negotiating a settlement or preparing a countersuit." Travis frowned. "Countersuit?" Carla grimaced. "He could claim wrongful suspension or defamation. He'll scramble for any angle." Madeline let out a tired breath. "Let him scramble. We have the financial records. He can't slither away from those." "Thanks for the update, Carla." Once alone in her office, Madeline sank into her chair, gesturing for Travis to sit on the sofa. "I should make a plan if Robert sues. It won't hold up, but the media might spin it." Travis studied her, sympathy in his gaze. "Seems like every time you solve one crisis, another pops up." She rubbed her neck, wincing at a lingering twinge of pain. "Welcome to my life. But at least we're not on the verge of a board coup anymore." They spent the next hour coordinating with legal counsel and reviewing the company's official stance. Madeline found herself glancing at Travis occasionally, comforted by his presence. He'd offer a nod or a subtle smile, reminding her she wasn't carrying this burden alone. By noon, she felt mentally drained. "Let's take a break," she said, pushing aside her laptop. "I want to check on Harper, the flight attendant who survived the crash. I haven't visited her in the hospital yet." Travis's brow lifted. "Good idea. Last I heard, she was moved to a rehab facility. Should I call and see if she's up for visitors?" "Yes, please." Madeline's chest tightened with a mix of guilt and anticipation. "I owe her more than a visit." 2 hours later, they stepped into a private rehabilitation center on the outskirts of Dallas. The bright halls smelled of antiseptic and faintly of fresh paint. Madeline's heels clicked on polished floors, echoing as they followed a nurse to Harper's room. Harper sat propped against pillows, arm in a cast, bruises mostly faded. She looked up as they entered, eyes widening with recognition. "Ms. Callahan." "Travis." Her voice was soft but laced with relief. "I didn't think I'd see you again." Madeline approached the bedside, heart heavy. "I'm so sorry it took me this long. I had no idea if you were ready for visitors." Harper managed a small smile. "No worries. I've been in and out of surgeries, physical therapy. It's been a whirlwind." Travis stepped closer. "Glad to see you're on the mend. You saved a lot of folks that night, calling for help, warning us about the others." Harper's eyes flickered with sadness. "I wish we could have saved more." She studied Madeline's face, noticing the faint scar near her temple. "You look better than the last time I saw you." Madeline mustered a genuine smile. "I'm healing, thanks to Travis, mostly." Harper nodded, glancing between them. "He's a hero, though I suspect you both saved each other in some ways." A complicated warmth coursed through Madeline's chest. "It's been an intense journey." Harper shrugged, shifting carefully in the bed. "Life's short, Ms. Callahan. That crash taught me not to waste time on regrets." Her gaze lingered pointedly on Travis for a moment, then returned to Madeline. "I'm just grateful to be alive." Madeline swallowed, emotions tightening her throat. "Me too. And call me Madeline, please." They spent a few minutes catching up, Harper describing her recovery plan, Madeline promising to cover all medical expenses. Harper tried to protest, but Madeline insisted, "You did your duty and then some, let me do mine." Before they left, Harper reached out and gripped Madeline's hand. "Thank you for remembering me, for not forgetting the crash. So many CEOs would move on, pretend it never happened." Madeline's voice quavered. "I'll never forget." Travis gave Harper's good hand a gentle squeeze. "We'll check on you again soon. Anything you need, just ask." Harper nodded, eyes glassy with gratitude. "Deal." Leaving the rehab center, Madeline paused in the parking lot, gazing at the midday sun. Travis slipped an arm around her waist, subtly supporting her tired frame. "You all right?" She inhaled, nodding slowly. "That could have been me in that bed, or worse. We both got lucky." Travis pressed his lips together, the memory of twisted metal and roaring flames surfacing. "Fate's a strange thing." She turned to him, eyes glistening under the bright sky. "Let's not waste it, Travis. Let's make this second chance count." He cupped her cheek, thumb brushing lightly. "I couldn't agree more." A beep from her phone broke the moment. She glanced down, another message from Carla about press statements. She sighed, slipping it away. Work never ends. He dropped his hand, though tenderness lingered in his gaze. "We'll handle it." One step at a time, she nodded, letting him lead her to the truck. Their bond felt deeper, tested by crisis, and now sustained by shared purpose. Yet beneath the fragile calm, Madeline sensed the stirring of another storm. Robert might be quiet for the moment, but she doubted he'd stay that way for long. That evening, Madeline and Travis returned to her condo, hoping for a rare moment of calm. The golden light of sunset streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting the living room in warm hues. Madeline flipped on the overhead lights, tossing her keys onto the kitchen counter with a tired sigh. Travis followed, removing his hat and setting it aside. "You want me to fix something to eat?" She managed a grateful nod. "I'd love that, but I only have random groceries in the fridge. I've been too busy to shop." He grinned. "I'm good at improvising." While Travis rummaged through the fridge, Madeline settled on a bar stool, scrolling through emails on her phone. She glanced up now and then to watch him move about her kitchen with surprising ease, pulling out vegetables, a carton of eggs, leftover chicken. The normalcy of it soothed her frazzled nerves. Minutes later, an impromptu stir-fry sizzled in a pan, filling the condo with savory aromas. Madeline's stomach rumbled, reminding her she hadn't eaten properly all day. "That smells amazing. You sure you're not a secret chef?" He chuckled. "Just a cowboy who learned to cook after too many nights of canned beans." She hopped off the stool, grabbing plates. Together they served generous portions of steaming food, then carried them to the dining table. It felt oddly domestic, two people sharing a quiet meal after a long day. No corporate drama, no cameras flashing. Halfway through dinner, Madeline's phone buzzed again. She ignored it at first, determined to savor the moment, but it kept vibrating. She sighed, setting down her fork. "I'm sorry, let me just check." She glanced at the screen. A text from an unknown number. "Check your email. I have what you need." Her heart lurched, a cold dread twisting her gut. She showed the message to Travis. "Any idea who this could be?" He frowned, leaning over to read. "Could be spam, or maybe some insider with info on Robert." She tapped her phone, opening her email. There, in bold letters, was a new message with no subject line. She clicked it. "Ms. Callahan, you don't know me, but I have details about Harmon's offshore dealings. If you want them, meet me at the abandoned warehouse on Eastfield Drive tomorrow at 9 p.m. Come alone or no deal." The message ended abruptly. Madeline stared at it, mind reeling. "This is weird." Travis set his plate aside. It could be legit, someone from Robert's circle turning on him, or it could be a trap. She gnawed her lip. "I can't dismiss it. If this person has evidence of more extensive corruption, it could seal Robert's fate, but meeting at night in an abandoned warehouse, that screams danger." He shook his head firmly. "You can't go alone." She turned off her phone, tension tightening her shoulders. The email specifically says alone. But if this is real, it could mean a permanent end to Robert's schemes. I can't ignore it. He reached out, covering her hand with his. "Let me come with you. Hide in the background or something. I don't trust this situation." She considered, mind torn. I don't like secrets or cloak and dagger, but we might not get another chance at evidence. Travis's jaw set. If you decide to go, I'll be there. Even if you don't want me visible, I'll be close, she exhaled, nodding slowly. Agreed. They finished dinner in strained silence. As they cleared plates, each was lost in thought about the cryptic email. Madeline's pulse thudded with the risk. What if Robert orchestrated this to corner her away from the safety of her office? What if it was an honest whistleblower needing anonymity? Later, they settled in the living room, the city's nighttime skyline glittering through the windows. Madeline stared at the lights, drumming her fingers on the armrest. She thought of everything that had transpired. The plane crash, the near-board coup, the press ambush, Robert's threats. Now a secret meeting with an anonymous contact. I never imagined my life would look like a spy movie, she muttered bitterly. Travis scooted closer on the couch. Sometimes we do what we have to, but if you feel uneasy, we can find another way. We can forward this to the authorities or have our legal team check it out. She shook her head, eyes flashing with determination. No, if this is real, I need that evidence. He's too slippery. I want to end this once and for all. A gentle silence followed. He studied her face, then placed a warm hand against her cheek. I admire your courage. Just promise me you won't go charging in alone. Her expression softened. I promise. You can keep an eye out from a distance. If something goes wrong... He nodded grimly, not needing her to finish. I'll step in. She leaned into his touch, the day's tension momentarily easing. I hate that it's come to this, but maybe it's the final piece we need. He nodded, pulling her closer so that her head rested against his chest. She closed her eyes, letting his heartbeat steady her. Tomorrow would bring another confrontation, another risk. But if it finally put Robert behind legal bars, or at least out of her life, she was willing to take it. They remained there in the hush of the condo, exchanging the warmth of quiet understanding. Outside, car lights streaked across dark roads, and office towers glowed with after-hours vigil. Within these walls, two souls found a flicker of solace in each other's presence, poised on the edge of yet another unknown. Night fell swiftly over the abandoned industrial district. Streetlights flickered, casting eerie shadows on cracked pavement. Madeline parked 2 blocks away from the designated warehouse on Eastfield Drive, her heart thundering in her chest. In the passenger seat, Travis gripped his phone in one hand, scanning the dim surroundings for any sign of trouble. She swallowed hard, eyes fixed on the warehouse's silhouette in the distance, a hulking structure of corrugated steel and shattered windows. I still hate that I'm going in alone, she murmured, but they insisted. Travis gave her a steady look. I'll be watching the entrance from behind those stacked crates. If anything feels off, I'm coming in. She nodded, forcing a shaky exhale. Let's do this before I lose my nerve. They climbed out. A warm, stale wind swept through the deserted street, stirring debris and the faint stench of old machinery. Madeline's heels clicked loudly, but she resisted the urge to remove them. A confident posture might be her only advantage here. Travis trailed her until they reached a cluster of rusted containers. He crouched behind them, giving her a final nod. She took a moment to steady her breathing, then approached the gaping warehouse door. Russ squealed when she pushed it open, revealing a cavernous, dimly lit space littered with broken pallets and graffiti-tagged walls. A single overhead bulb flickered from a high beam, casting long shadows on the concrete floor. "Hello," Madeline called, voice echoing. She'd rehearsed how to greet whoever waited inside, but her mind was blank with adrenaline. A figure emerged from behind a crumbling partition, a woman in her late 20s, hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She wore faded jeans and a hoodie, and her posture was tense. "Ms. Callahan?" she asked, keeping a cautious distance. Madeline nodded, eyeing the woman warily. "You said you have information on Robert Harmon's offshore accounts." "I'm here." The stranger lifted a messenger bag, swallowing hard. "I worked for him, indirectly. My name's Janelle. I handled certain financial transfers. I didn't know how illegal it was until I dug deeper. When I tried to quit, Robert threatened me. He said he could ruin my life if I spoke out." Madeline's stomach twisted in anger. That sounds exactly like him. Janelle took a step closer, rummaging in her bag. "I have printouts, banking logs, shell company registrations. It's enough to bury him. But you have to promise I'll be safe." Madeline raised her hands, palms out. "If this information is real, I'll make sure you get protection. We can file it with law enforcement, and you could testify under whistleblower protections." Janelle hesitated, as if weighing her trust in Madeline's words. Then she pulled out a folder thick with documents. "Take it." "I'm done hiding." Relief washed over Madeline. She extended a trembling hand, grasping the folder. If these papers were genuine, Robert's final scheme would come crashing down. "Thank you," she whispered. But before she could flip through the pages, a metallic clang echoed through the warehouse. Both women startled, and Janelle's eyes widened with panic. "He followed me!" Heavy footsteps reverberated. Madeline jerked her gaze to a side entrance she hadn't noticed. A beam of light cut through the darkness. Robert stepped into view, flanked by another figure, a bulky man in a dark jacket. Robert's expression twisted in a triumphant sneer. "Well, well," he said, voice echoing. "I suspected Janelle might betray me. She was always too curious." Madeline's heart hammered. "Stay back, Robert." He ignored her warning, focusing on the folder in her hands. "Hand that over. Now." Janelle shook her head, taking a step behind Madeline. "You're not getting away with this." Robert let out a humorless laugh. "Brave words from a scared little accountant. And you, Madeline, did you really think I wouldn't track this meeting? I've got eyes everywhere." Madeline clenched her jaw, scanning for an escape. The only exit was the door behind Robert, or the large entrance she came through. She prayed Travis had heard the confrontation. "The law's closing in on you, Robert," she said, voice steady despite her terror. "This time, there's no buying your way out," he scoffed, glancing at the folder. "We'll see about that. Hand it over, or my associate here might get persuasive." The man at Robert's side advanced, raising a length of pipe menacingly. Janelle shrank behind Madeline, fear etched in her face. Madeline forced herself to stand tall, ignoring the quiver in her limbs. "Hurt us, and every shred of your credibility is gone." Robert's eyes blazed. "That's rich, coming from you, the crash victim who's so desperate to prove she's still strong. I'm done playing nice." He lunged forward, trying to snatch the folder. Madeline stumbled back, clutching it to her chest. She glimpsed a flash of movement near the entrance. Travis, rushing inside, her heart soared with relief. The bulky man swung the pipe at Madeline. She ducked, her breath catching in her throat. Travis barreled into the attacker, knocking him sideways. The pipe clanged onto the concrete. Robert cursed, scrambling to grab it. Madeline seized Janelle's arm, dragging her behind a stack of crates for cover. Travis struggled with the henchman, grappling in a flurry of fists. Robert snatched the pipe and advanced on Travis from behind. "Travis, watch out!" Madeline shouted. Travis spun just in time, catching Robert's arm mid-swing. The force sent them both toppling to the ground. Dust billowed as they crashed onto the concrete, fists flying in frenzied arcs. Janelle pressed a trembling hand over her mouth, eyes wide in horror. In the chaos, Madeline realized the precious folder had slipped from her grasp. It lay on the floor, half spilled. Robert spotted it too, eyes narrowing with desperation. He tore free from Travis's grip, lunging for the documents. But Madeline was faster, skidding forward to snatch the folder. Robert snarled, raising the pipe again. This time, Travis tackled him at the knees, sending him sprawling. The pipe clattered uselessly away. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone must have called the authorities, or maybe Travis had arranged for backup. Robert's accomplice scrambled to his feet, eyes darting in panic. Sensing the fight lost, he bolted through a side door. Robert, pinned beneath Travis's weight, glared with venomous rage. "You'll regret this," he hissed. Madeline clutched the folder to her chest, adrenaline roaring in her ears. "No, Robert," she said, voice raw. "This is your regret. It ends here." The screech of tires outside signaled the arrival of police. Travis kept Robert subdued. Janelle sagged against a crate, relief warring with shock. Slowly, Madeline rose, clutching the incriminating evidence. The final blow against Robert was in her hands at last, and she was more than ready to deliver it. Police lights cut through the dusty gloom as officers burst into the warehouse, weapons drawn. The echo of their shouts bounced off the steel walls. Travis stepped back, raising his hands calmly to show he meant no threat, while Robert flailed under the weight of his own fury. "Drop the pipe!" one officer barked. Robert's eyes flickered with hatred, but he had no choice. He flung the pipe aside, glaring at Madeline, Travis, and Janelle as if they were the cause of all his misfortune. Madeline drew a shuddering breath. "He tried to attack us," she said, her voice echoing. "We have evidence, bank records proving his illegal activities. It's all in this folder." An officer approached, collecting the scattered pages from her trembling hands. Two more restrained Robert, cuffing him despite his protests. "I demand my lawyer!" Robert spat, struggling. "These charges are baseless." Janelle, still shaking, stepped forward. "They're not baseless. I worked on those transfers under Robert's directives. I'll testify." The officer eyed Janelle. "You're prepared to give an official statement?" She squared her shoulders, lips pressed tight. "Yes." As the police led Robert away, he hurled one last threat over his shoulder. "Enjoy your hollow victory, Madeline. The board will learn you're just a broken woman clinging to power." Madeline felt a cold shiver run through her, but Travis placed a hand on her back, steady and reassuring. Robert disappeared through the warehouse doors, the swirl of red and blue lights casting flickering shadows across the floor. Outside, they heard the scuffle of more officers intercepting Robert's accomplice who had tried to flee. An older detective stepped over, tipping his hat in greeting. "Detective Morgan, DPD. We got an anonymous tip about a disturbance here. Looks like we arrived just in time." Travis exhaled. "Appreciate it, Detective. This man's threatened Miss Callahan before. He's a suspended CFO under investigation for embezzlement." Morgan scanned the folder's contents, nodding grimly. "We'll keep this secure as evidence. Miss Callahan, we'll need your statement too." Madeline nodded. "Of course, whatever you need." Her mind whirled. The tension of the last few minutes, Robert swinging that pipe, Travis tackling him, still buzzed like static in her veins. She stole a glance at Janelle, whose eyes brimmed with relief now that it was over. Officers ushered them outside, where a cluster of squad cars formed a makeshift perimeter. Robert sat in the back of one, staring daggers at anyone who passed. Madeline couldn't help but feel a pang of pity. He'd brought this upon himself, yet the spectacle was grim, an empire of deceit crumbling under harsh fluorescent lights. As paramedics checked for minor injuries, Detective Morgan took statements. Janelle recounted how Robert had pressured her into setting up shell accounts. "He threatened to ruin my career. I was too scared to speak out. Until now," she finished, trembling. Madeline squeezed her shoulder gently. "You did the right thing. I'll do everything in my power to protect you." Morgan wrapped up his notes, flipping his pad closed. "We'll pursue charges against Harmon. With these records and your testimonies, he'll have a hard time wriggling free. Ms. Callahan, your company's legal counsel can coordinate with us. I recommend you file a restraining order as well." Madeline nodded, relief finally seeping in. "Thank you, Detective." Travis hovered protectively, an arm looped around Madeline's waist. In the swirling chaos of lights and uniforms, that small gesture of connection grounded her. She glanced up at him, lips curving in a tremulous smile. After the police finished their work, Janelle lingered, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for believing me. I'm sorry I ever got involved with Robert in the first place." Madeline shook her head. "You didn't know. And now you've done the brave thing." Travis offered Janelle a soft nod. "If you need anything, legal help, a place to stay safe, let us know. We'll figure it out." Janelle's gratitude shone plainly in her expression. "I will. Thank you." They parted ways, leaving the waning police presence behind. The once menacing warehouse now felt oddly vacant, its darkness stripped of mystery and replaced with the harsh truth of Robert's downfall. The air smelled of dust and engine fumes, a far cry from the quiet farmland Travis was used to. Madeline turned to him, voice trembling with exhaustion. "I can't believe it's over, or at least starting to be. He's been the shadow looming over my entire life these past weeks." Travis brushed a smudge of grime from her cheek. "You stood your ground. No one can question your strength now." She glanced down at the scuff marks on her heels and the torn edge of her blazer. A rueful laugh escaped her lips. "I might need new clothes after tonight." Travis's grin was small but genuine. "You'll wear 'em with the same resolve." She swayed slightly, adrenaline crashing. Travis steadied her, pressing a hand to her shoulder. "Let's get you home." She nodded, blinking tears of relief. "I just want to be away from all this." Hand in hand, they walked to Travis's truck, leaving the swirl of police lights behind. A flicker of dawn glimmered on the horizon, an echo of the day to come. As he helped her into the passenger seat, Madeline felt the weight on her chest begin to lift. Robert was in custody. The documents were safe. The crisis that had threatened to destroy her might finally be at an end. Yet beneath the relief, a different tension coiled in her heart, one that drew her inexorably toward the man who had saved her not once, but time and again. Tonight, she'd faced the worst of her fears, and in that battle's wake, she saw clearly what mattered most, and she wasn't prepared to let it slip away. The morning sun lit the edges of Madeline's condo, revealing dust motes dancing in the beams. She lay curled on her couch, wearing an old t-shirt she'd found in a drawer, anything comfortable enough for the aftermath of last night's confrontation. Travis stood in the kitchen, blending fruit for a quick smoothie. The whir of the blender was oddly soothing, a domestic hum that dispelled lingering nightmares. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She eyed it warily, expecting calls from lawyers or reporters. Instead, Carla's name flashed across the screen. Madeline answered, voice still husky from lack of sleep. "Hey!" Carla's words tumbled out in a rush. "Oh, thank God you're okay. I heard about the arrest. Is it true Robert tried to attack you?" Madeline rubbed her eyes. "Yeah, it got ugly. But the police have him now. How's everything at the office?" "Controlled chaos, but stable," Carla replied. "The board is relieved Robert's in custody. We've scheduled a press briefing to confirm your exoneration and the charges against him." Madeline exhaled, tension easing. "All right. I'll come in later today. I need to finalize statements with legal." "Absolutely. And, Madeline—" "I'm glad you're all right," Carla said softly before hanging up. She set the phone down, looking up to find Travis approaching with 2 smoothies. The sweet scent of strawberries and bananas filled the air. "For the CEO who took down a corrupt CFO," he said, handing her a glass, "and for the cowboy who tackled a would-be attacker." She laughed softly, though the memory made her stomach clench. "Thank you," she murmured, taking a cautious sip. He settled beside her. "Carla okay?" Madeline nodded. "She's handling the corporate side like a champ. Wants me in later to make a public statement. He ran a hand through his hair, gaze gentle. How do you feel about that? She gave a half shrug. I'm relieved Robert's finally exposed, but I'm tired. So much has happened since the crash. It's like I've been running on adrenaline non-stop. Travis set his smoothie on the coffee table, shifting closer. Then maybe we take a day off. You can let Carla do the heavy lifting for once. Her lips curved into a wry smile. Easier said than done, but maybe I'll only go in for the press statement, then come back here. She hesitated, her eyes lingering on his. Will you stay? He brushed a thumb over her hand. I told you before, I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me to. A flicker of vulnerability crossed her face. I don't want you to go. Not now. Not ever. He swallowed, emotion tightening his throat. Madeline, are you sure? Our lives are so different. She took a trembling breath, recalling the endless glass and steel boardrooms and the quiet sprawl of his ranch. They are. But in the last few weeks, I've learned that differences don't matter if the connection is real. You saved my life, yes, but you also showed me that I could let someone in without losing myself. Travis exhaled, eyes bright with feeling. You taught me that sometimes it's worth risking heartbreak again. I've been so closed off since, well, forever. But you got under my skin in the best way. A warm hush settled between them. She reached up, brushing her fingertips across the stubble on his chin. So, we figure it out as we go. He leaned in, pressing his forehead gently to hers. I'm on board with that plan. She tilted her head, heart fluttering. This time there was no phone call, no crisis to interrupt them. Their lips met in a soft, tentative kiss, one that spoke of gratitude, hope, and something deeper that neither could fully name. A tiny, startled thrill coursed through Madeline, a sense of belonging she rarely felt in her high-powered world. When they finally pulled back, she let out a shaky laugh. That was worth waiting for. Travis's eyes shone, a boyish grin curving his lips. Absolutely. They savored the moment, the condo's quiet hum enveloping them. Then reality nudged its way back in. Madeline reached for her smoothie, clearing her throat. All right, next steps. I have to handle the official statements, calm the investors, then maybe by tomorrow the dust will settle enough that I can take a break. Travis nodded. I'll drive you wherever you need to go. Stay in the background like always, or at your side if you want me there. She set her glass down, a wave of affection swelling. I want you there, but the board might raise eyebrows. He shrugged. Let them. You're the boss, and you've got nothing to hide now. She met his gaze, heart brimming with gratitude. Thank you for seeing me beyond all this chaos. He shook his head, voice low. You're impossible not to see, Madeline. With that, they rose to prepare for the day. She changed into a sharp blouse and trousers, covering her lingering bruises with subtle makeup. He watched her with an admiring glint, the swirl of mutual attraction lighting the space between them. As they headed out, the sun climbed higher over Dallas, promising another scorcher. The drive to Callahan Industries felt different. The usual weight of dread wasn't there, only cautious optimism. Yes, there would be reporters, and yes, the board might murmur about the personal closeness between them, but for once, Madeline didn't feel the urge to hide or to prove herself invincible. She simply felt alive. Walking into the lobby, Travis close by, she noted how employees paused to greet her. Their smiles were genuine, relieved. A wave of calm spread through her. She was back on solid ground, with her leadership secure and a partner by her side. All set? Travis asked, just before she stepped into the makeshift press area. She squared her shoulders. All set. The old Madeline might have insisted he stay behind the scenes, but now she gave his hand a quick squeeze before moving forward to address the waiting cameras. This was her company, her life, and she was ready to share it, challenges and all. In the days following Robert's arrest, Callahan Industries buzzed with cautious energy. The press devoured the scandal, photos of Robert in handcuffs, quotes from Janelle's testimony, and headlines about Madeline's heroic stand against corruption. But while the media frenzy raged, Madeline focused on stabilizing the company from within. Travis found himself in an unexpected role, part emotional support, part informal consultant. When he wasn't on the phone with Dylan to coordinate ranch matters, he lingered in Madeline's office, giving her a listening ear and a dose of grounded perspective. One afternoon, a week post-warehouse showdown, Madeline called an all-staff meeting. Standing at the front of the same auditorium where she'd spoken before, she felt a jolt of nerves. Travis watched from the sidelines, arms crossed, a quiet bulwark of reassurance. "Thank you for gathering," she began, letting her gaze sweep across the employees. "We've been through a storm, financial uncertainties, allegations, leadership challenges, but I'm here to say we've come out stronger. The audit continues to confirm wrongdoing by Robert Harmon. We're cooperating fully with authorities. Our board is united. Our investors are regaining confidence." A soft wave of applause rippled through the crowd. Madeline allowed a small smile. "I also want to acknowledge my own journey. Surviving that plane crash changed me. I realize success means little if we forget our humanity. So from now on, I intend to lead with transparency, compassion, and balance. This isn't just my company, it's ours." This time, the applause was more robust, a sign of genuine support. Some employees even cheered. Madeline felt her throat tighten with emotion. She'd rarely allowed herself vulnerability, yet here she was, openly acknowledging her transformation. After the meeting, staffers filtered out with a renewed sense of hope. Carla approached, eyes glistening with pride. "That was beautiful, Madeline. People needed to hear it." Madeline smiled, hugging her loyal assistant. "You've been my rock through all this, Carla. Thank you." Carla blushed. "Just doing my job. By the way, the board wants a final briefing on next quarter's projections. Without Robert's manipulations, we actually look stable again." Madeline's smile widened. "That's the best news I've heard all day." Nearby, Travis caught her eye, lifting an eyebrow in silent query. She nodded, a subtle signal that everything was okay. In truth, she felt lighter than she had in months. Later that evening, after the building cleared, Madeline and Travis roamed the empty corridors. Offices stood dark, save for the faint glow of emergency lights. She led him to the executive suite, past her own office, to a large glass window overlooking the Dallas skyline. Tiny lights dotted the horizon, shimmering like constellations. "This is my favorite view," she confessed, resting her palm on the cool glass. "I used to stare at it whenever I felt overwhelmed, reminding myself of how far I'd come." Travis stood behind her, his hands slipping gently onto her shoulders. "It's beautiful, but I can see how lonely it might feel too." She nodded, heart constricting. "I used to think that was the price of success, standing at the top alone." She turned, facing him in the dim hallway. "But you showed me it doesn't have to be that way." He brushed a thumb across her cheek. "You let me in. That took courage." She smiled softly, leaning into his touch. "Almost as much courage as tackling a man with a pipe." He snorted, a warm rumble in his chest. "I'd do it again in a heartbeat." They shared a quiet moment, foreheads touching, the city lights framing them like a tapestry. Months ago, the idea of leaning on someone like this would have seemed impossible to her. Now, it felt vital. "Tomorrow, I'm heading back to the ranch," Travis said gently. "Dylan's been handling things, but I can't stay away forever. I've got animals, repairs, bills to pay." A pang of sadness cut through her. She'd known this moment was coming. "How long will you be gone?" He shrugged, gaze thoughtful. "Don't know. A few days at least. Could be a couple of weeks. Depends on what needs fixing." She forced a nod, hugging her arms around herself. "I understand. You have your life there." He took her hands, squeezing gently. "I'm not disappearing. I just need to handle my obligations. Then, if you're willing, I'd like to keep seeing you. Figure out how we make this long-distance thing work." Her eyes misted. "I want that, Travis. I don't care if it's a crazy juggling act. I want to try." The memory of the plane crash flashed in her mind. How fleeting life could be. "We've come too far to just part ways now," he exhaled, relief and tenderness shining in his smile. "Good, because I can't picture going back to the ranch as if nothing happened between us." She brushed a soft kiss over his knuckles. "Nothing won't cut it. We survived a plane crash, corporate betrayals, and a midnight warehouse brawl together. We can handle a little distance." His laugh was low and affectionate. "You're right. We've proven we're a force to be reckoned with." They stood there in the hush, forging unspoken promises. The city lights glowed behind them, silent witnesses to a love that had taken root in the midst of chaos. Eventually, they parted, hand in hand, walking back through the dark hallways, hearts full of a tentative but determined hope. Tomorrow, he'd leave for the ranch. She'd wake up to an empty condo, face a board meeting, handle 1,000 details. But tonight, she clung to the warmth of his presence, grateful for a second chance at both life and love. The next chapter was uncertain, but for the first time in years, uncertainty didn't terrify her. She was ready to step forward, eyes open, heart open, no longer alone. A crisp dawn stretched over wide-open fields as Madeline's rental car bumped down a dusty road, trailing a small cloud behind. She'd finished another grueling round of investor calls in Dallas and found herself craving the simplicity of Travis's world. A text message from him the previous night, "I miss you. Come see me," was all the invitation she needed. At the end of the rutted path, she found the ranch, a sprawling expanse of worn fences, rolling hills, and an old barn that showed its age with pride. Madeline stepped out, smoothing her blouse, heart thrumming with anticipation. The air smelled of hay and the faint tang of manure, an earthy honesty that made her smile. Travis emerged from the barn, dusty jeans and boots, a broad grin lighting his face. He waved, crossing the yard in easy strides. Her pulse jumped. She realized just how much she'd missed him, even after only a couple of weeks apart. "Thought you might have gotten lost," he teased, wiping sweat from his brow. She laughed, stepping closer. "A city girl on a ranch road. It's a wonder I made it here at all." He leaned in, kissing her gently. The warmth of his lips melted the miles between their worlds. She breathed him in, the smell of leather and horses. "Hey!" she whispered, heart fluttering. "Hey!" he murmured back. "Welcome back!" They strolled together past a paddock where a few horses grazed. Travis pointed out Cheyenne, his favorite mare, who snorted as if suspicious of this new visitor. Madeline held out her hand, letting the horse sniff. "She's beautiful," Madeline said softly, stroking the mare's neck. Travis's voice held a note of pride. "She's got spirit. Kind of reminds me of you." Madeline chuckled, warmth filling her chest. The moment felt so far removed from boardrooms and press statements. Here, the biggest concern was feeding livestock and watching the weather. She wondered if she could ever truly blend these two worlds. She turned to Travis, studying his rugged features. "How have things been? The ranch looks alive." He nodded, gaze sweeping the fields. "Thanks to Dylan's help, we got the fence repairs done. I've been mending old equipment, making headway on the finances too." He glanced at her. "Feels good to handle my responsibilities in person." A pang of guilt tugged at her. "I'm sorry if I pulled you away from all this for so long." He shook his head, sliding an arm around her waist. "You didn't pull me away. I chose to stay, and I'd do it again." They walked toward the house, a modest, single-story structure with peeling paint, yet radiating a sense of home. The porch creaked underfoot. Inside, the living room was cozy, scattered with books on ranching and a couple of horse show trophies perched on a shelf. "Coffee?" Travis offered. "It's not gourmet, but it's fresh," she smiled, taking a seat on an old couch. "I'd love some." While he busied himself in the kitchen, Madeline let her gaze roam the living room. It was the polar opposite of her minimalist condo. Photographs adorned the walls, a younger Travis with a broad smile, posing beside an older man, likely his father. Another showed Travis at a rodeo, gripping a lasso. She felt a tug of affection for the life he'd built, the history etched into every corner. He returned with 2 steaming mugs. "Here you go." She sipped, the coffee strong and unembellished, just like him. Perfect." Her eyes drifted to a dust-flecked window that overlooked the barn. "So, how long can you keep living 2 lives, bouncing between my world and yours?" He settled beside her, shoulder brushing hers. "That's what we gotta figure out." "I'm not giving up the ranch. It's my home, my family's legacy. But I also don't want to be a stranger in your life." She set down the mug, turning to face him. "And I can't just walk away from Callahan Industries. Not yet. I've worked too hard to let it go, especially now that I'm rebuilding it with a healthier culture." He nodded, seriousness settling in. "So, do we do a long-distance thing for a while? You come here some weekends. I come to Dallas when I can." She took a breath, weighing the possibility. It won't be easy, but we've already overcome bigger hurdles. A small laugh escaped him. "True. A few hours of driving feels minor compared to plane crashes and shady CFOs." She relaxed against him, resting her head on his shoulder. "We'll take it slow, let it evolve." He pressed a soft kiss to her temple. "That works for me." They sat in companionable silence, the hum of farmland a soothing backdrop. Eventually, he nudged her gently. "Hey, come outside. I want to show you something." They stepped onto the porch, the afternoon sun warming their skin. He led her around the side of the house, revealing a small flower bed he'd recently cultivated. Wildflowers, mostly, with bright pops of color scattered in neat rows. She blinked in surprise. "Travis, did you plant these?" He shrugged, cheeks coloring slightly. "Figured we could use some beauty out here, something to remind me of you. Thought you might like them." Her throat tightened with emotion. "They're perfect," she whispered, fingertips grazing a delicate purple bloom. "I never imagined you as a gardener." He laughed softly. "I'm not, but I can learn." She gazed at him, heart full. In that moment, the future stretched before them, uncertain but brimming with possibilities. The city still called to her, and the ranch was in his blood, but they stood hand in hand, determined to make it work. A gentle breeze rustled the flowers. She turned, letting the warmth of the sun and Travis's presence wrap around her. His eyes sparkled with that earnest sincerity she'd come to treasure. Slowly, she rose on tiptoe, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that felt like both a promise and a beginning. A distant hawk cried overhead, sweeping across the endless sky. The wide horizon yawned before them, as limitless as the roads they would soon navigate, together, but each with their own dreams and responsibilities. This was their final image. Two survivors of chaos standing in the golden light of a new day, ready to face life's uncertainties with open hearts. Because sometimes, a second chance at life also means a second chance at love. And for Madeline Callahan and Travis Ward, that chance was the start of a story still unfolding, one of open fields, corporate towers, and a bond forged in the crucible of fate. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.